Hey guys, welcome back, and today we're going to be looking at the live stream. Personally, I'm looking forward to the Rev, which is going to be lots of fun for me, because, you know, I love Rev, if it's not obvious. But I'm also pretty excited for the Elementalist and then also the Engineer, because they both seem like relatively interesting. I think just from the like sneak peek we got that they were probably like the most interesting out of like all the ones we've seen so far, but I want to like see how it looks like in play and just to see how the Evoker, Amalgam, and Conduit feel. So we'll have a look at what Aina had to say on the stream last night, and yeah, I might just go through it, see.
All right.
And pause as we go.
Hello, everyone. Once again, we are back. Cal CMC Cohen, joined by Taylor Trig Brooks. What are we here to talk about today, Taylor?
I might.
About the last three elite specs: Conduit for the Revenant, Amalgam for the Engineer, and Evoker for the Elementalist.
Yep. So, we'll reiterate some of the stuff that we said at the start of every stream, so this might sound familiar to everyone who's obviously been watching all three of these streams, but we are leading up to the beta, so you're going to see a lot of stuff that is, it's not going to be perfectly balanced. Maybe there's some art that's still being worked on, some designs that aren't quite optimal or, quite where we want them to be, but that's kind of the goal of the beta event in the first place, is we're getting some stuff in front of you, all the players, in definitely a playable state, but not necessarily an optimal state, and we're going to
So basically they're getting us to test it. We already know this with all the betas. Like, there's going to be shit broken. Like, even on release, there's going to be shit broken. But, like, it's a lot more resources for Aina to figure it out than it is for, like, the player base. Because, like, the player base will just always break stuff.
Gather a bunch
Sorry,
of
aim.
over the course of that event and take that and find a lot of opportunities to improve these specializations as we get closer to the launch of the expansion.
Yep.
Anything you want to add? Yep.
Yeah. Normally at the end of every profession, we like kind of hover over the tooltips to get screenshots, but we've done some of the work ahead of time, and there should be a link in the chat. There's going to be a forum thread that'll have an album of all of the skills and traits after we cover that section. So easier to obtain for you guys, less work on your end. So look forward to that.
We won't have a bunch of awkward silence at the end of each specialization as we do some hovering.
We'll see.
Unfortunately, Roy could not join us today. He had a prior engagement, but surely we'll see him at some point in the future. Let's just go ahead and dive in. It's going to be, we've been running pretty long on these streams because there's a lot to talk about, and we will continue to do so, so we can talk about everything there is to talk about. We're going to kick things off with the Conduit here. We can see, starting with Legendary Entity Stance, we are obviously invoking the power of Razah.
Actually, random side note. Was Roy there for the Thief one? Because he wasn't there for the first one. So, I don't know.
So there's also one other new mechanic. We'll get into the legend skills in a minute here, but we're going to start off with this new F2 button for the...
Wait, shit, they're starting with Conduit? Dude. All right, let me hide this. I do not want to see CC because they're covering the skills. Okay. So, okay, I seem to be right that they were going to have like an F2 interaction, and we did get a new legend. So, is this the Dervish legend? I'm assuming it is.
Conduit is going to be Cosmic Wisdom, and this is going to draw a lot of inspiration from some of the elite form skills that you guys might be familiar with from the Dervish.
Okay, yep. So, invoke the power of the Dervish, gaining additional attributes. When you strike an enemy, a magical scythe spins, deal damage to enemies around you. Form of the Dervish, give 100 expertise, 100 concentration, 100 condition damage, 100 healing power, 100 vitality, 100 toughness, 100... Okay, so 100 of all stats. So what's that equivalent to? So 150 is... Sorry, 150 is 10% duration and that. So it's roughly like 7.5% expertise, like condition duration, and 7.5% boon duration. Interesting.
Profession of Guild Wars 1. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to channel human gods on a specialization that is usable by multiple races. So instead, we are going to be channeling a lot of different professions. So we see here Razah will be kind of representing the Dervish profession.
Hey,
familiar with Razah know able to use every profession in Guild Wars 1 after some things got figured out. But he will be representing the Dervish here, or they will be representing the Dervish here. What we can see here is that it's kind of like a stance. I'll probably call it a stance a bunch of times on the stream here. It is not a stance skill type, does not care about stance, things that care about stances, but it is mechanically kind of similar to a stance in that when we activate this is going to give you some stats, and it's also going to give you kind of an on-hit effect. Again, similar to a lot of the form skills of Guild Wars 1. So looking at the Cosmic Wisdom for the Dervish here, we're going to get all stats. This is going to be kind of the most powerful of all of the forms in that sense. We'll see some higher numbers on some...
Alright, so it seems like they do want you to play Dervish when you're a Conduit, because he's saying it's stronger than the other forms, so that's interesting.
more restricted stat combinations as we get to other legends. Because the idea here is that your active legend determines the cosmic wisdom that is available to you. So with Razah, we will get these bonus stats, and then we'll create a scythe when we strike an enemy to deal damage to nearby enemies. So let's take a look. This will happen around you, so pretty good with melee weapons. We're already going to be in melee range. You see it's kind of bonus scythe attack happening every so often. This can only happen once every interval, so you can't get...
Okay, so you get like a random scythe attack every 3 seconds? 2 seconds?
Infinite amount of scythes, especially scythes trigger off themselves, but this is kind of a nice callback to the dervish, who obviously used scythe as one of their main weapons. So as you can see, the duration here is a little short, but the extra mechanic here that we see with the specialization is the affinity mechanic. The way that this works, baseline, there's going to be a lot of traits that care about affinity, so we'll get into those in a handful of minutes here.
Gain affinity whenever you use a legend skill that costs energy. Each stack of affinity extends the duration of cosmic wisdom by 1 second. Lose all affinity whenever you swap legends. Yeah, this is kind of a little bit scary because usually you want to like swap legends as fast as possible when playing Revenant specs, so we'll see.
But every time you use a legend skill that costs energy, which you know is a lot of them, then you will build up a stack of affinity, and the way that this works is that it will extend the duration of your cosmic wisdom. So in general, you want to use some legend skills. I'll press some buttons that do some things that we'll talk about in more detail shortly, but we see that we built up to 3 stacks of affinity here, so activating cosmic wisdom is going to give us a much longer duration of that effect. There's also going to be some other traits that care about your affinity, so we'll be talking a bit more about that as well.
All right, let me go back. So my understanding is every time he uses a skill, he should get 1 affinity.
So, in general, you want to use some legend skills. I'll press them.
Okay, that gave him 2 stacks. So I don't know how that...
Some things that we'll talk about in more detail shortly, but we see that we built up to 3 stacks of affinity here, so activating cosmic wisdom is going to give us a much longer duration of that effect. There's also going to be some other traits that care about your affinity, so we'll be talking a bit more about that as we get into the trait section as well. You saw some other stuff happen when I pressed cosmic wisdom, so that might give you some hints toward what some of the traits are. Notably, when you swap legends, that's going to reset your affinity back to 0. The idea is you're kind of building up, well, your affinity or your rep with the legend, your bond with the legend that you're currently invoking. So it resets back to 0 as you swap legends. You obviously get some energy back, get some new skills that you can press to build up that affinity again. But let's just go ahead and look.
Okay, but my question is, what happens if I blow all my affinity and then I swap legends? Do I get to keep the buff from the affinity? Because if you do, that's kind of cracked.
At the other cosmic wisdoms. Malix here is going to be representing the Mesmer profession. I don't know if Malix really had a profession in Guild Wars, but they're both purple, so it makes a lot of sense. But obviously Malix is more of that condition-focused legend, so we're going to see a lot of condition stuff.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know why you would put Mesmer of all the things. I don't know all the Guild Wars 1 classes, but like Malix is a fucking demon. Like, I know it's purple and you guys were just like, oh, purple on purple, but it's just weird to make it a Mesmer. Let's see. So it gains condition damage and expertise. It's not bad. Alright. Invoke the powers of the Mesmer, gaining bonus condition damage and expertise. Inflict a random condition whenever you strike an enemy. Okay. So a half-second interval of a random condition. Oof, this is going to be some heavy RNG rolling, because usually with Revenant, at least with these 3 conditions, Torment is going to be the most valuable. But also, why is Burn not in here? It's weird that it's just Bleed, Torment, Confusion. I would have assumed Burn, Poison would also be in here, but I'm not complaining. It means we get more chance of getting Torment, which is high damage for Revenant, so you don't hear me complaining.
Which Mesmer obviously does a lot of Torment and Confusion and some bleeding as well, so it makes sense. So the 4 of the Mesmer here, bonus condition damage, bonus expertise, and then on...
Okay, bro. Oh, he said Mesmer does a lot of bleeding. I guess Virtuoso does, but the other specs not so much.
You're going to be inflicting one of these damaging conditions, whether it's bleeding, torment, or confusion. So just take a quick look at that. See some conditions being applied to these golems as we strike them.
Actually, wait, let me go back.
Conditions being applied to these conditions, whether it's bleeding, torment, or confusion. So just take a quick look at that.
Wait, does he have numbers?
Damaging conditions, whether it's bleeding, torment, or confusion. So just take a quick look at that. See some.
Okay, so it's the cooldown is not target based. It's all right. It's per target. I just wanted to see if that was like per target hit or if it was like 1.5 second cooldown for all targets.
Conditions being applied to these golems as we strike them. Moving on to the Centaur stance. This is going to be Cosmic Wisdom of the Monk. You know, Ventari, very much that supportive character. Don't know if he ever saw a lot of combat, but a lot of themes of Ventari make sense with the monk. So we're going to see kind of this self-sustaining, gives you some healing power, gives you some vitality as you channel this, and then also going to give you this kind of on-hit healing buff. And you'll see a bit better. I'm actually in combat. You can see you're just getting some, a little bit of...
All right, so on-hit healing buff. All right. Let's see. So invoke the powers of the monk, gaining additional healing power and vitality. You heal whenever you strike an enemy. So it gives you 120 healing. Interesting to see how the scaling is going to work on that. And increased vitality. Doesn't really matter that much, those two things. Half a second. You know what is actually depressing about this? Is this healing is better than the lifesteal on Kala Legend, but
sustaining, gives you some healing power, gives you some vitality as you channel this, and then also going to give you this kind of on-hit healing buff. And you'll see a bit better. I'm actually in combat. You can see you're just getting some, a little bit then coming from the tablet, of course, but we are getting some nice healing procs here. Next up, we'll look at Shiro, obviously representing the assassin.
Okay, invoke the power of the assassin, gaining additional power and ferocity. Inflict a random debilitating condition whenever you strike an enemy. So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm glad they didn't put ferocity in here. Not ferocity, precision. Because it's just going to be a wasted stat. Especially on power builds. It's just kind of like, why? Right. Inflict a debilitating condition. Like, okay, this is going to be nightmare for PvP. Like, dude, weakness is such a strong condition in PvP. Yeah, that's terrifying. A half-second interval to just apply 1 second of weakness without any like condition duration, and you're rolling the dice. Like, could you keep this up indefinitely? Probably not, but you could potentially just like continuously cripple them. I don't know. This is kind of scary for PvP. This is going to need balancing. They might just remove weakness from this. Maybe keep cripple. But yeah, this is terrifying. I mean, for PvE, it doesn't really matter. Like, it probably will survive like really well actually in PvE because weakness is good for like just getting hit. But yeah.
Assassin sense, you know, this one is kind of most on the nose. We do see that the form of the assassin grants you bonus power, bonus ferocity, leading into that power DPS, and also going to be inflicting some debilitating conditions here, whether it's crippled, weakness, or vulnerability. Again, I just see the same stuff. So we're getting some vulnerability from the sword auto as well.
It is interesting. The others have like an on-hit effect, whereas this one's just like kind of like a random condition, like a debilitating one. It's not really going to be helping you that much damage-wise, apart from like the extra ferocity and power.
And we are getting the lowest duration of this Cosmic Wisdom, so again, you will want to build up your affinity and get the maximum duration to give you the maximum value of this stat bonus, these on-hit effects. And last but not least, we have Jalis, channeling the form of the warrior.
I don't think weakness should work on bosses. Like currently the way it functions is it's like a slow CC, which I'm kind of fine with. But like it just cuts your damage by so much. It's just insane. If it worked on bosses, it would make tanking like irrelevant. And also it adds way too much RNG because it's like 50% chance to fumble. So it's like, okay, they'll have to balance the boss around the fact that like they'll have permanent weakness. And then if they have permanent weakness, they're going to be like, okay, like they're going to be balancing around that half of the time it's going to do half the damage it should. Like, I'd rather they didn't. It makes things way too complicated. Well, I understand it's like nice to have it have an effect in PvE, but it's kind of good for like trash mobs. So like in a way it's good. I think they just need to make it where there's more trash mobs in the game, right? Like that are like affected by it. So like a good example of this would be like, I wouldn't have an issue so much if, say for example, weakness worked on the Grillings inside Wing 8. or the fumarolas on Wing 8. Like any of the ads that like are there that aren't the boss themselves, I think having it function on them is kind of fine. It gives like value to it. But the boss themselves, I think, should be immune.
This one makes a lot of sense because, Jalis is a warrior. This is going to give you some more personal defense. We're going to see toughness, concentration, giving some boon duration to play into these kind of defensive boons on hit. You can get resistance, protection, or resolution.
Yeah, let's go back, have a look. Invoke the powers of a warrior, gaining additional toughness and concentration. Gain protection, resolution, or resistance whenever you strike a foe. Jeez. Dude, you get 3 seconds of resolution. And the interval is like a quarter second. So basically, whenever you're in Dwarf, you have permanent resistance, protection, and resolution. Like, without a doubt, you will have, in PvE at least, you will have permanent these boons, whatever your form of the warrior is up. Also, why is the cooldown for these 20 seconds? Like, that means, functionally, once every second time you're, unless it shares cooldowns. Ooh, please tell me this does not share cooldowns between legends. That's so bad. If it does, that's going to be kind of annoying. Because the way this is going to function if it shares cooldown, so when I say share cooldown, if this shares cooldown between, say, for example, Dwarf and Dervish, so if you're using Dervisher, it's on cooldown when you go into Dwarf, that's going to be like very annoying because then you lose all the like usefulness of like gaining any affinity while in Dwarf. So it basically cuts the usability of it. And then even at 20 seconds with Alacrity, it's probably going to be 17-ish. So I guess you could use it every single loop potentially, because Legend Swap is about 10 seconds. Give or take. 16 seconds, so every about 20-ish seconds, you should be in the same legend. Okay, I can see where they've balanced it, but I hope it doesn't share cooldowns across legends.
Concentration, giving some boon duration to play into these kind of defensive boons on hit. You can get resistance, protection, or resolution. The same idea. It's just kind of like, one of the introductory mechanics is this cosmic wisdom, and this does. I am not cheating. My recharge, you'll note that this recharge does not refresh by default as you swap legends, so you will have...
Fuck! I was right. Dude. Pre-watched. Dude, actually pre-watched. Man. Fuck. Dude, the one thing I didn't want to have happen with it is happening with it. God damn it. I really didn't want it to share the cooldown between the legends. Because now it's basically going to function where every 20 seconds is going to be like your burst window, and then like that's it. Well, roughly 16 seconds, but you're probably going to only want to do it in one legend. And I don't think it's going to be in Dervish when you're conditioned. I think it's probably going to be... you're going to want to do it in Malix probably when you're in... I'm going to say Malix when you're Condi, and then probably Assassin when you're damage. Actually, no, because you get strike, an additional strike when you're in Dervish. I could see it being Dervish when you're power. It could go either way. It just depends what scaling is better.
To kind of pick and choose which legend you want to channel that form of and get this bonus for, because it's not going to reset as you swap legends. So
God damn it. I hope they change this. Or lower the cooldown. Because the problem with it now is, I'm going to actually have to go over it. So 4-second duration increased by 1 second per affinity, unless it's affected by traits. Because that means what? 7 seconds maximum duration. So you're going to have it up less than like 50% of the time. And I'm going to say it's going to be an important mechanic to upkeep. I would much rather prefer they lower the cooldown and make it so like it's hard to maintain.
Skills themselves. So we're going to see a lot of... I'll just hover when the skill facts here as we're talking. But we're going to see a lot of kind of flexibility as each of the first 4 skills that we're going to look at has kind of an association with another legend as well. So we see this resonance mechanic being explained. On the healing...
Okay. Channel Revitalize is an energy that heals you with every pulse. While channeling, you take reduced damage and condition damage. Okay. Interesting. So it's a block kind of think 75% reduced damage. Interesting. Personally, not too concerned about that. Like, it's going to be nice if you're like tank, but like I don't really see you like giving any kind of boons like quickness or alacrity on this. So I don't really see this being a healer unless they decide to give it quickness, which would be kind of cracked. Let's see. Have legendary centaur stance equipped. You additionally heal allies around you during the channel and take reduced strike and condition damage for a short amount of time after channeling completes. Okay. So you heal allies as well if you've got Centaur equipped. Kind of nice that it has like some effect if you have another legend equipped. A bit interesting.
Skill, it's going to be resonant to Centaur stance, and the idea is that based off the other legend that you have equipped, there will be a bonus effect if you have the matching legend. So here, if we have Centaur, which we don't, but we can kind of show off the base of the skill, and then we'll show the Centaur version of the skill. But if you, as you can see, this is just going to be a personal kind of pulse healing. Again. Pulse heal, get some damage reduction. This skill's called Shielding Hands, so it gets that Guild Wars 1 callback. We see some damage reduction, we see some healing. And then the idea is that if you have Centaur stance, this is going to change the skills just a little bit, where this heal is also going to affect allies, and it's going to extend the duration of that Shielding Hands.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I think if the skill is empowered with the legend you have equipped, they should probably change the graphic of it a little bit. So that it shows that the skill's like an empowered version. So you see here, it's got like the hands with the centaur in the background, right? I think that if it's empowered, it should have the centaur be like the red outlined like shadow thing, and then the hands just be like kind of like in a shadowy thing in the background. I think it would be a nice little small change graphically, but I think it would make a massive difference in just like usability for people.
If we come over here, now that we have Centaur equipped, we see that
that's like a minor thing.
We see that damage reduction lingering just a bit longer. And that's kind of the goal of these skills, that the baseline effect is a good skill, and then we'll see that the kind of the resonant bonus makes the skill, I don't want to say overtuned, but a bit above budget, because there is only one of these 4 skills that will get kind of that empowered effect depending on your alternate legend. And we will see the elite skill, spoiler, does get a resonance bonus regardless of what your other legend is, and it's just a different bonus based off the legend. But basically, we will get a bonus effect on one of your skills plus the elite depending on your alternate legend. So that's starting off with the skill, pretty straightforward. Next up, we'll see the Assassin Resonance Beguiling Haze. This is going to be a pretty powerful mobility tool that has a bit of crowd control attached as well. So the way that this is going to work is we're going to send out. This is going to be. Sorry,
I'm going to read this quickly. Send an unblockable fragment of Razah towards a targeting opponent. If the fragment reaches its target, shadow step to the enemy, dealing damage and dazing them. If it hits, you can use this skill up to 2 more times with no energy cost or cast time. Daze is not inflicted again when striking the same target more than once. If the legendary assassin stance is equipped, the skill becomes a ground targeted AoE, except while underwater, and strikes enemies in a radius. Okay. So if you have assassin stance, it becomes like an AoE CC. 20 energy, 500 damage, unblockable? Bro, that is going to be insanely strong. At least in like World v World. How big is the AoE? Like having something that's unblockable CC is kind of annoying.
A pretty powerful mobility tool that has a bit of crowd control attached as well. So the way that this is going to work is we're going to send out kind of a fragment of Razah. And this is going to potentially strike your enemy, and if it does, you'll teleport to them, get a pretty short daze, and then you will be able to reactivate this skill a couple of times, assuming that you continue to hit enemies. An important note is that the daze out of range, or being in range, but the daze of this skill will not hit the same target multiple times, so you will still get that refresh. You can get it kind of multiple times for the damage, but if you are striking the same enemy, that is not going to be dazing the same enemy multiple times. So if you want to maximize the value of that component, you're going to be dashing between different enemies here.
Actually, wait, does each cost additional?
Yeah, being in range. But,
okay.
That's what the range indicator on the skill is for, right?
Okay, so it looks like only the initial cost gives affinity, but every cost past that point does not give affinity, which is good to know.
And then if you are also channeling Shiro on your alternate legend, we're going to see this becomes a ground target. So this gives you a lot more flexibility and kind of where you dash to, because obviously you can go up. There's not a lot of Z-axis here, but you will be able to like port up the ledge or whatever. A lot more flexibility. Notably, you still do need to hit an enemy in order to get the refresh, but you can still use it as a better escape.
Oh, so yeah, okay. What's a 120 radius? Number of okay, so it's capped at 3 targets. The skill size is pretty small. That's okay. I think most likely, if I'm honest, is it a dash or is it a blink? Sort of shadow. Okay, so it's a shadow step. Okay, so it will like not knock you down, because the thing I'm worried about is like, oh, while you're moving to the location, you just get like interrupted by like lines of warding or other stuff.
Notably, the AoE or the daze and the strike are AoE on the resonant component here as well. Next, we'll take a look at Gladiator's Defense. This is going to be the stun break and also the Dwarf Resonant skill. We see that this is just kind of a nice little quick activating stun break. It's going to do a little attack around you as well. This is going to inflict weakness. If you strike someone, you're going to get resistance, you're going to get resolution.
Okay. Let me read this quickly. Break out of stun, damaging and weakening enemies close to you. Gain boons if the skill strikes at least one enemy. Remove additional energy if the skill is used to break a stun. If the legendary dwarf stance is equipped, the additional energy cost for breaking stun is reduced, and the boons are also granted to allies in a radius around you. Base cost is 10 energy. Okay. Although it doesn't seem to have a cast time, just a 5-second cooldown. Additional energy drained is 20 if you're CC'd. So it's 30 energy to break the stun if you are CC'd, and if you're running invocation, you'll get 15 back. So essentially, this is going to be a 15 energy cost skill. Allies affected 4. So what do you get? Resistance 3 seconds. This might actually be very strong. Resistance and is like a very strong skill to have, like a boon to have, just for striking like one foe. I can see this being, especially if the power DPS version works, like this could be pretty useful to have on like HDCM, where you just like have resistance for like Zaitan Fear. But it's going to be a matter of like seeing what works.
And this kind of has a similar idea to one of the skills we saw before, where if you break a stun, it's going to cost a little bit more, so it will drain additional energy from you. But if you just want to use this as a strike, as a weakness applicator, as a boon generator, then it's just going to have a much lower baseline cost, and then only if you are breaking stun will this cost additional energy. The resonance bonus here is that if you are channeling Chalice as well, then the additional energy cost will not be taxed or consumed or whatever you want to call it. You always get the low cost of this skill, so a very powerful stun break. If you have Chalice as your alternate legend, you will also be granting these boons to nearby allies. Last up, we have the Demon Stance Resonance Hex Eater Vortex. This is going to be a condition removal skill, and that will also be a bit of condition damage. The way that this skill works is...
Okay, remove conditions on yourself and then fire projectiles that inflict conditions at random enemies within your radius based on the number of conditions removed. If Legendary Demon Stance is equipped, the maximum number of projectiles is always fired regardless of conditions removed, and all projectiles are fired at the closest enemy instead. Okay, so maximum conditions removed is 5, maximum number of projectiles is 6. So without demon, this scales up. Yeah, this could be interesting. It seems like a nice cleanse, 15 energy cost. It seems to only inflict torment though. 8.5 seconds. It'll be interesting to see how much damage this does. 5-second cooldown. So if you're playing Conduit, you're probably going to want to open with this, cost an additional time. It's going to be interesting. I think one issue I'm already going to find with Affinity is I think some legends it's going to be hard to like proc the affinity bonus. I could already see it being hard in Demon, unless it like every second you channeling the drain skill, it gives you 1 affinity. I think that would be a healthy way to go, but we'll see.
By default, you will throw a projectile and consume or remove 5 conditions from yourself. And if you actually remove conditions from yourself, I am not currently removing conditions from myself, but you'll see that additional. I'm going to put some conditions on myself real quick. We will get some additional projectiles being thrown here. So I'll get some burning, get some bleeding, and there we see 3 projectiles being fired as I removed 2 conditions from myself. So that will be up to 6 projectiles. Obviously, just a 5 condition removal from yourself is a pretty powerful skill. And notably, if you have the Demon Resonance, this will always throw the maximum number of projectiles, and it will always throw at the nearest target. So this just gives it a lot more usability as that Conduit DPS skill, which is relevant, assuming you have Malix, you are probably going to be playing a condition damage build. So you don't need to worry about having conditions on you. You're always going to get the maximum damaging aspect of this skill. Gonna take a quick drink of water as we hover probably the longest tooltip in the entire game on a single skill.
Jesus. Twin Moon Sweep. Spawn a fragment of Razah at your target location. Both you and the fragment attack with a scythe, damaging and inflicting conditions on foes at your location. Gain might for each enemy struck. Resonance. The skill gains bonus effects depending on the legend equipped in the other slots. Alright, so baseline is just damage, might, and bleed. 2 stacks of bleed, 2 might. Okay. Number of targets per scythe is 5. That's pretty insane. Let's see. Legendary Assassin Stance. Actually, how long does this last? Both you and the fragments attack with a scythe. Yeah, how? Dude, 30 energy cost for this? It's not giving me a duration. Dude, I can just see this is going to be rage inducing. You're going to open up with this, you're going to cast it, and the boss is going to move, and you're just going to fucking lose your mind, dude. I can see it. I can already see it. I can peer into the future of my future pain and suffering. This is going to be worse than when you miss your Bloodstone Burst. Alright. Assassin Stance is a 2-second immobilize. Okay, it has to be hit by both you and the fragment. The damage increases 50%. Jeez, that's pretty insane. Legendary Demon Stance. You and the fragment shatter after the initial attack, dealing additional damage and confusing enemies. Okay. Interesting. Oh, okay, it's just like one attack, I guess. It's interesting. 8 seconds of confusion. Honestly, I would rather it was Torment, but it is what it is. They might add Torment onto it. They're probably just scared of making it busted. Legendary Centaur Stance. Heal allies in range of you and the fragment for each enemy struck. Remove conditions from yourself. I hope they make it remove conditions from the team because you're playing Centaur. Kind of doesn't make sense that you're just removing. Wait. It says remove from yourself, but number of allied targets is 5. Then you fix that skill, that tooltip, because it's saying just from yourself, remove it, and then it's saying that it affects 5 allies. Alright, interesting. Legendary Dwarf Stance. You gain boons when the skill begins casting. Enemies struck by both you and the fragment are additionally stunned. Damn, that's pretty strong boons to give. Stability, resistance, and resolution. Stun 1 second. Dude, this thing is gonna, like, if you're running Dwarf, this is just gonna spit out so much resistance. It's gonna be insane.
But you might think of this skill as 4 different skills, so it's pretty fair that this tooltip is this long, right? So the way this works is, like I said earlier, there's always going to be a resonance effect. So we see all the different resonance effects here. Assassin Stance, Demon Stance, Center Stance, Dwarf Stance. The base of this skill is just that you and Razah will kind of attack together. You'll spawn Razah at a target location. You'll both perform a nice, powerful scythe attack. And then we will see additional effects based off the legend. So here
Yo, that looks really cool.
And what's happening is the fragment of Razah is going to do a kind of a shatter explosion as it disappears. That's going to inflict some confusion. So again, leading into that more condition damage focused aspect. If we have the more condition damage focused aspect. If we have the more condition damage focused.
Alright, so that was 6 stacks. Let's give it from you and the fragment. So it should have only been 3 stacks, but I think because he was close, he gave more.
It's Dwarf Stance. The base of this skill is just.
Let me just double check.
Razah will kind of attack together. He'll spawn Razah at a target location.
Yeah, that gave 3 stacks.
Nice attack. And then we will see additional effects based off the legend. So here right now I have Malix, and what's happening is the fragment of Razah is going to do a kind of a shatter explosion as it disappears. That's going to inflict some confusion. So again, leading into that more condition damage focused.
Okay, so yep. So it's 6 if you and the clone on here. Oh, I just wanted to see that.
Aspect.
So you're gonna want to be a melee.
If we have
It's gonna be half of as effective if you're at range.
That's going to get you some bonus damage, again, meaning the most powerful strike damage version of this skill. And if you and the fragment both strike an enemy, that enemy will be immobilized. So you're I cast it at range, but casting it in melee, getting that immobilized on all these targets. Pretty powerful setup. And again, going to be like the largest damaging version of the skill. Next up, we can take a look at Ventari. So if we
Dude, it's gonna
we're gonna
like the thing is you've got to blink, so you're literally just gonna blink and then cast this, and it's just gonna be a 2-second immobilize, and then you're just gonna burst the shit out of them. Plus, that being said, you're also gonna have Sword 4, which is also an immobilize. So like you're gonna immobilize people for like 3, maybe 4 seconds if they don't have a cleanse.
Do a little bit of healing around ourselves and around Razah. There we see a bit of healing coming through, and this is also going to do some condition removal based off enemies struck. So notably, you will want to potentially strike some enemies if you want to remove conditions from yourself, or you can use it as kind of like a ranged support skill as you cast it on allies only, or maybe you're in Worldy World and you're able to cast it on top of allies and enemies and kind of get the full value of this skill. Then last up, we have the Dwarf Resonance. This is going to give some defensive boons again. On activation, we see getting some stability, getting that resolution, getting some resistance, and the kind of team up double hit component of this is that.
I like how they make like the little baby road around you, like the underwater one.
That you will stun enemies that are struck by both you and Razah. So again, pretty decent damage as well. You see some baseline might being generated, you see some baseline bleeding being applied, and then
Yeah, Kuma, it really does. Like the amount of resistance and a mob that this build has is kind of crazy. We could see, it depends on how much damage you do with the conditions when you do attune to demon. Like if it carries over when you're in demon, it's gonna be kind of insane.
some extra bonuses based off which resonant legend you have also on your bar. It's a pretty fun skill with a lot of flexibility. Next up, we can take a look at some traits. Just wanted to add anything, Taylor?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to play this.
Thanks, Gary. I
Like,
appreciate it.
The resonance adds different things to each build. Like if you're a Condi, you're gonna play Malix and really get a strong resonance with a Hex Eater, put a lot of like throughput there. But you won't, like say if you're playing the Assassin, you get a lot more mobility. So it's a way to really focus in on what we want specs to be doing when we play these things without having to worry about how like the interchange between them. Like if you're a Jawless build, you won't have that like really crazy mobility, but you'll get a lot better defenses there. So really trying to heighten what the core legends want to do while you're playing with Razah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's run through the traits we see here. Enigmatic Connection, this is going to be the baseline. Explain the spec. So you can obviously scroll through all the different Cosmic Wisdoms here if you want to, or you can look at the album that we posted with all of these tooltips as well, or you'll probably catch them on social media somewhere else as well after the stream. Then the first adept, the first minor trait that actually does something. We see that based off your equipped legends, you're going to get some extra stat bonuses. So
let's see, oof, that's kind of strong. 120 power, 120 condition damage. The 50 to all attributes is kind of like meh, but on your equipped legends. So, okay. So I'm assuming this means that like, wait, what does it say? Effectiveness increase 50%. It's kind of weird. Gain attributes, gain additional attributes when the legend is when it's active. I probably should have read that last sentence. All right, so that means when you're in assassin stance, you're gonna have what? 180 power. Damn, that's a lot of power. I guess the legendary entity stance is kind of like meh, right? Like, but it's like the second best option if you power anyway. Like, it's going to be like 75 to all attributes, which is kind of insane. Like if you're power damage, the precision is going to be pointless on you because you're going to want to be crit capped when you're inside Assassin's Legend anyway. And I think, what is that? So 75, that's essentially 1530. So it's like 4% condition duration and 4% boon duration. Well, you're like in the attribute, well, you're in the stance, but it's going to be like less than that. It's going to be like 3% condition duration. It's not really that much. It's not really going to do too much. It's more going to be effective for like the ferocity and the power. Because like effectively that's like 100, what, like 75, like 150 power roughly. Because it's like the power and the ferocity are going to scale together. So it's going to be like double effective for power damage. So it might actually be more powerful than the assassin stance buff. Plus you're going to get the power from having an assassin stance on top of that. Yeah, that's going to be kind of cracked.
The active legend will also give you a little bit of a bonus on top of this here. So here I am currently invoking Razah, so I'll be getting 75 to all stats instead of 50 to all stats, and then Jalis as my off legend is currently giving me 120 toughness, but if I swap to Jalis, then I'll be getting 180 toughness from that, and then the 50 all stats from Razah. So this again kind of just gives you those build-defining stats based off which legends you have equipped and kind of what expectation your build has, whether it's more damage-focused, healing-focused, condition-focused, or defense-focused. And then we have Numinous Gift. This is a trait that some of you may have noticed going off as we were pressing Cosmic Wisdom, but this is going to give you boons based off which legends you have equipped. So as we see Razah giving us Fury.
Bro! Why would you give resolution to the demon? Oh, dude. That's gonna be broken. 5 seconds. Game boons when you use a Cosmic Wisdom. Wait, Cosmic Wisdom is the F2, right? Alright, never mind. I thought this was like the skills, whenever you use the skills inside Dervish. It's not gonna be too bad. It's not gonna be too bad. It's still gonna be like really, really strong, but like, yeah. I don't know. I feel like they could have done more. They probably should have just put like a condition rather on the demon. I think would be more useful.
Jalis will give us stability right here as we press Cosmic Wisdom. If you have other legends, you'll have other boons being applied every time that you activate Cosmic Wisdom. So Razah, Fury, you know, it's fine, but it is kind of the weakest of the boons here, but Razah is kind of the most flexible of the specialization of the legends and gives you a lot of opportunity to do different things, whereas the others are a lot more specialized. We see the protection from Inventari, stability on Jalis, resistance from Alex, and a bunch of might with Shiro. So we can move into the adept traits, starting with conductive armaments. This is going to give you kind of an extra source of affinity. So now anytime they use a weapon skill that costs energy, you will also be getting affinity. So we're just press.
That's probably going to be the most important skill, because if you're in, say, for example, demon, the demon skills are very expensive. Like what, you got 20 energy costs just to strip ins, you got 30 to jump, you got the second cost of the jump, which is like I think another 5 or 10. You've got the resistance / stun break, which I think is also, is it 20? I think it's either 25 or 30 from memory. So it's like pretty, like all the demon skills are relatively expensive. So you're almost never getting maximum affinity unless you've got like weapons for that legend. So it's good to see that they are adding something that makes it so you can get affinity with weapon skills, which is going to be like very, very important for demon. Assassin, probably the same. The other legends I don't think matter. I'm gonna be honest with you, at least from like a PvE perspective, unless this build gives like say for example alacrity or quickness, it's just not gonna matter as a healer in PvE. So we'll see at the end if they do like the Grandmaster trait gives quickness or alacrity. I find it very unlikely considering that Revenant already has like very good alacrity builds and very good quickness builds. But I'm kind of hopeful. Okay, I'm a little bit honest. I am hopeful they add a quickness to this build. But I'm highly doubtful they will.
So weapon skill, I need to be in combat, which is the problem here. There we go, actually got some affinity. So this makes it just a bit easier to build up that affinity. Some legends have more expensive legend skills, would make it a little bit more difficult. So maybe in those cases you want to be playing with this trait so you can build up that affinity cap a bit quicker and fire off that max value Cosmic Wisdom. Next up we have Ethereal Purification. This is going to be a really powerful condition removal option, and here's one of those traits that cares about affinity. So as you build up affinity, once you hit the cap, you'll get a condition removal, 2 condition removals rather, and then again, anytime you activate Cosmic Wisdom, that's going to give you 2 additional condition removals. So this is potentially really strong because affinity does reset as you swap legends, so we can kind of swap to a legend, build up that 3 affinity, cleanse 2 conditions, then fire off Cosmic Wisdoms, cleanse 2 more conditions, and then we swap legends and start building up that affinity again, and get another...
I don't think you're going to be able to proc this. Outside of maybe... Which legends are you going to be able to proc this in? So I can't see you proc it in Demon. If it gets it, Quickness Herald is officially homeless. Yeah, true. True, and based. Then they can buff its damage again. What is Vindy? I mean, the weird thing about Revenants is like, currently Vindy is very strong, but like even like at the moment, Power Renegade bursts harder than it. Just based on the way the classes are designed. But that obviously takes a lot more experience pulling that off than Vindicator does. Vindicator is kind of just like Unga Bunga. At least from what I've seen. I need to actually go and learn Vindy properly. I've just been lazy. And Bomber Scrap is so much fun. Like, so I haven't looked at doing that. I don't see why you would take this over the other trait. Vindy being all, yeah, literally just you're spamming into an auto attack, hoping that you bug the dodge so that you auto attack during your dodge animation. And that's like what, like an extra, isn't it like an extra like 1k damage? Is it 500? I think it's like 500 to 1k. I could be incorrect though. Don't quote me.
Conduit removal in a pretty quick succession potentially. Last up, we have Expanded Consciousness. This one's going to give you a larger affinity pool, so this will obviously allow you to build up to 5 affinity, which is going to give you even additional duration on Cosmic Wisdom. We will see some traits pretty shortly here that there will be kind of a build that is more focused on Cosmic Wisdom, so you might want to play this affinity bonus.
Your maximum affinity is increased to 5. Okay, so affinity is baseline 4 seconds, an additional second per affinity. At 5 affinity, that means your duration of the buff is 9 seconds. That's interesting. I could see that being used potentially. But I still don't see how, like, I don't see how you would be able to charge this up in anything but Dervish. Like, if you run the additional affinity, you're not going to be able to proc this in Demon. You're not going to be able to proc this in Assassin. You're not going to be able to proc the Dwarf, maybe? Like, my question with Dwarf is if, like, because Dwarf doesn't have a cast animation for the Drain. If I toggle the Drain, like, continuously, is that going to give me affinity? Or is it just going to give me affinity every, like, 1 to 2 seconds? Like, they should probably just give you affinity for upkeeping Drain skills. Maybe, like, make it every, like, 10 energy drained or, like, something like that you gain affinity. But you, like, because the Drain skills are kind of just there, and I don't think they give affinity.
Trait, so you can really lean into that mechanic. First of them is Recurring Insight. So the idea here is that when you swap legends, you will reduce the recharge of Cosmic Wisdom for each point of affinity. So, we look at the skill with a base cooldown of about 20 seconds. If we build up to 5 affinity because we have Expanded Consciousness, let's just go ahead and do that. We can stop cheating for just a little bit. I need to, again, put myself in combat. Build up to maximum affinity, then we swap legends, we see a big cooldown reduction coming through on the Cosmic Wisdom. And then, it's much more readily available because if you are, again,
Recharge reduced per affinity. Alright. So baseline, that's going to be a 6-second reduction. With Alacrity, it's almost 10 seconds. So you might actually be able to do it every single time you're in Demon stance or Assassin stance during the loop. But I think you would much rather probably... So this is my guess. Is that if you're playing Condi damage, you probably want to buff the Demon. You probably want to go into the F2 in Demon. And if you're Power, you're probably going to want to do the F2 inside of Dervish. That's just how it looks to me. I could be incorrect, but just based on like just glancing at the skills is how it's going to probably function.
At 5 affinity stacks, that's going to be a 9-second duration, potentially reduced to a 10-second cooldown, so maybe you get a little bit of alacrity in there, and then you can potentially now have a full uptime of the Cosmic Wisdom bonus that you could bounce between legends, or maybe you swap and then swap back and try to really maximize the uptime of a single Legends Cosmic Wisdom. Next up, we have Lingering Determination. So this is going to give you kind of some bonus affinity back, or a single affinity back when you swap legends. And I don't believe it's indicated in this tooltip at the moment, but you do need to have 3 affinity at least to get this triggered. So we can kind of show this off again real quick. Press some buttons, press some more buttons.
You didn't pick the trait.
Here, and I didn't even have the trait equipped. Great demonstration. But notably, this will also heal yourself and gain endurance when gaining affinity. So This is another trait that's pretty useful with expanded consciousness, because if you are at the affinity cap, you can't actually gain affinity for this trigger. You will need to swap legends, so this just gives you a little bit more space to build this up. 5 triggers every legend as opposed to 3, but this is a pretty strong heal, get some endurance back, and of course will be triggering when you swap and get an affinity.
5 endurance, and that's strong.
Requirements, and equip the trait. I would recommend it.
Maybe in PvP it is, but...
Last up, we have Boundless Knowledge. This is just going to really power up those Cosmic Wisdom effects. This lists all the bonuses to the stats, but we're also going to get some bonuses to all of the on-hit components here. So we see some extra stuff here, getting a little bit of a daze attached to the Scythe as part of the bonus of Cosmic Wisdom for the Dervish. And we can kind of...
Alright. Unique benefits granted by the forms have additional effects. So I think, how much was it initially? I think it was like 100, right? So that's like an 80% improvement on like the strength, which is no, it's a 50% improvement. It was 120 because it was Dervish had 100 all stats from memory, and now it's 150. Yeah, you're probably running this. Oh, but the cooldown. The problem is the cooldown is going to be like every second time you're in the legend.
Just going to really power up those Cosmic Wisdom effects. This lists all the bonuses to the stats, but we're also going to get some bonuses to all of the on-hit components here. So we see some extra stuff here, getting a little bit of a daze attached to the Scythe as part of the bonus of Cosmic Wisdom for the Dervish. And we can kind of scroll through all of these over here on the minor trait as well. We can see that Assassin getting some extra damage, getting some extra stats, getting that extra cripple, weakness, vulnerability.
Sorry, I want to go back and read that. So the extra damage. All right, so it gets the extra power ferocity. It adds the daze as well. Okay, they're definitely nerfing that. A 1 second daze with a half-second interval. Bruh. That's busted. Nope, they're nerfing that. Especially if you have this at, say, for example, like a 9 second, isn't it? No, it's gonna be 7 second duration. At max affinity.
You can see that Assassin getting some extra damage, getting some extra stats, getting that extra cripple, weakness, vulnerability. I'm actually getting the daze from a different trait. Don't believe me. Just getting some extra damage on the Dervish Scythe.
Wait, did he say he's getting the daze from a different trait? Okay, never mind.
Then we see kind of some similar patterns, increased condition durations.
I want to go back because this is the only other one I care about. Assassin was the one I cared about. This is the other one. Condition damage, expertise, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So it just increases the duration of the bleed, I guess. I don't think that's that useful, actually. Like, unless they're making it like 50% stronger, the bleeds in the torment, just baseline to scale, I think you would just take the cooldown. Like the cooldown reduction, most likely. Because it means you get the attribute increase more often. Yeah, I see that being the case.
Kind of some
Could see it swing either way.
Condition durations, increased healing, increased boon durations, and so on and so forth. So this really just powers up those Cosmic Wisdoms. You can kind of make this kind of a burstier trait as opposed to recurring insight, which gives you more uptime overall, but this is going to give you more potency every time that you activate Cosmic Wisdom. And still going to be good with expanded consciousness because, again, you can have that longer duration of this effect. Notably, the daze was coming from Misfire, and this is the first Grandmaster trait, going to be more condition damage focused.
Apply conditions to enemies when you disable them. Damage and daze enemies around you when you activate Cosmic Wisdom. Okay. So deals burn damage, which is good. Kind of wish it was Torment, but whatever. Alright. If I'm having a look at this, if we're playing the condition build, the Axe 5, so this essentially puts what? 4k damage just onto the Axe 5 alone. And then Okay, when you go into this, you're probably going to also use the spear, which also has a CC. So that's going to put another like 4k damage there. And I don't know what his scaling is at the moment. And it says apply conditions. It's not showing what additions it applies. No. Yeah, we'll see what it does.
Anytime you disable an enemy, you're going to inflict conditions on them that will be burning. And then when you activate Cosmic Wisdom, that's going to do a little bit of damage and a little bit of daze to kind of get a guaranteed trigger there. You can obviously be getting some additional disables coming from maybe the hammer or whatever weapons you so choose. This does have a small internal cooldown, so you can't staff 5 through somebody and get maybe 200 stacks of burning or whatever number you want. There is some amount of a safety valve there.
The fact they knew exactly how this was going to be abused is kind of funny to me, but
still a very powerful trait.
Man.
Next up, we have Twofold Embodiment. This is going to cause Cosmic Wisdom to grant you all the bonuses for both legends. So we see that we currently have Razah and Jalos equipped, and we're going to get both Form of the Warrior and Form of the Dervish when we activate Cosmic Wisdom. Again, a trait that makes Boundless Knowledge kind of even more impactful because you will be getting the empowered version of...
Bro, that's insane. What the fuck?
Both of your legends' Cosmic Wisdom. So a pretty powerful effect if you're leaning into that kind of combination of traits, especially. And last up, we have Perpetual Wisdom. This is kind of shifting the gameplay around Cosmic Wisdom. It's going to turn it into an upkeep skill, and so this will work with all of your upkeep traits, like things that care about upkeep. Will get that count of 3 as you're upkeeping Cosmic Wisdom, and this will just kind of, give you more uptime of this effect at the cost of energy. I guess potentially an infinite uptime if all you want to do is channel Cosmic Wisdom and auto attack with your sword. Probably pretty solid.
Energy gained per affinity 5. This might actually be... Oh, what is the other two? Is it worth burning though? Like, unless you keep like you're getting like for this, you're getting like you're getting a lot of attributes, bro. Especially if you run the trait that's like, oh yeah, you gain your weapon skills give you affinity. This basically means that like Sword 2 doesn't like cost you any energy because it'll refund what it costs. Yeah, I could see this being the strongest choice. I could see this being worthwhile in PvE. Like, they would need to balance the PvE builds around this, but I could see this being the valuable choice for Bauer. For Condi, probably you're taking the burn. Unless, I don't know, like getting 150, like, or 180 expertise in that is pretty strong. I wouldn't be surprised if like the Condi and power builds just use perpetual wisdom. Like, yeah, and then you just use the this trait here for the weapon skills give you affinity, because it basically means whenever you use a weapon skill, you get a cost refund of like 5, which is going to be like insane. Yeah, I could see this being abusable, pretty strong, especially for PvE. I might try and make this work when we get the what's it called?
There's another
The beta
here that when you swap legends, you will get some energy back for each point of affinity. So another trait that is quite good with expanded consciousness, but still pretty good with the cap of 3 affinity. You get between 15 and 25 energy back when you swap. So that's what we got for the conduit. Obviously, as we talked about, a lot of flexibility depending on what you choose to kind of specialize in based off your build, which alternate legend you have equipped. You don't have to play Razah with this elite spec, of course, but it is a pretty powerful legend for pretty much every build, so we would expect to see a lot of Razah and alternate legend of choice based off what your build is trying to do. I'm just going to go...
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. For PvE, no one is taking anything besides Assassin and Demon. You're gimping your damage if you take Dwarf, Centaur. Like, it's not worth it. I could see it maybe having some open world builds that are kind of tanky, like with Sally stats, especially because of the Dervish Legend. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you're probably not running that. Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards the Condi build might be kind of strong. Malix plus Ventari for specific fights, maybe? Nah. You're still giving up 50 to all stats, which in condition is kind of good. Yeah, same with power, but I wouldn't do it. Why would you do that when you could just have a heal Vindicator take Ventari for you? I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, since the energy cost changes to bubble, running a Ventari bubble on anything that's not Vindicator is just kind of like, it's just waste. Like, you're damage, like you're gimping your damage for no reason. Especially when Vindicator has traits to give energy back. You're better off just running heal Vindicator. I'm not a huge fan of the boon DPS taking Ventari, especially when the boon DPSs at the moment can do like insane damage. It's not worth it.
Go ahead and get set up for our next demo, which will be the Amalgam.
Yep, and as we mentioned, all those tooltip screenshots are going to be on the forum. There's a pinned link to it, so we don't have to take all the time to hover through it. But now it is slime time. Talking about the Mercurial Mold, the Amalgam. Conduit was also pretty versatile. This one, I think it's got a beat in versatility. This is probably the most versatile elite spec I can think of. Cal's lit in here, so you see the UI. You can see 3 blank slots. They might look familiar. They're basically like utility slots. Cal can show you the menu. Pop it up. You can pick any of those. So we have 7 more skills, 3 slots, a lot of permutations here. Before we go into what they do, we can talk.
That's kind of cool. So basically, your F1 doesn't change and your F5 doesn't change, but you get 3 skills. You can choose what they do. Yes. Power Vindicator doesn't lose that much damage. But you must also remember that when you're running that, you're losing less weapon skills, right? Because the upkeep cost is a lot higher, Panna. And like, that being said, the Vindicator only has 50 baseline energy. There's no way to gain that back apart from just not draining energy. Whereas Vindicator can refund some, like, can use the F2 with some certain traits and you can get energy back. It's just like, I don't know. I much prefer the Vindicator heal. I do want to try it on HT CM at some point, but I don't think it's worthwhile. It could be worth using on HTCM, but it would take a little bit of creativity. Yeah, I might try it, do it at some point.
About the new F5, it's going to be Evolve. So if Cal hovers over it, it's just pretty simple. It's just Evolve.
It evolves.
So this one, you're going to kind of like merge with your slime, become one, and it's going to give you bonuses based on the more skills that you have selected in your 4 slots. So baseline, all it does is just give you a bit of an attribute increase, nothing special, but the real bonuses are going to come as we get into those more skills. Quick side note is that you can see that the F1 is still...
Bro, it basically makes you the Silver Surfer. It makes you the Silver Surfer to look at it. What the hell?
Not selectable. That one is just going to be a normal healing tool belt skill. We decided to keep it there because, for one, medkit exists. A really big part of medkit is having that F1 mending heal. But another part is that we do have trait triggers based on healing tool belt slots now, and we want to keep that as something we can work with. So we didn't want you to have to decide, I need this skill in this F1 slot because that's the lowest cooldown. I'm going to proc those more. We just wanted you to put where you felt comfortable putting those skills as you would utilities.
Come NG is best in slot.
4 skills are going to be divided. There are a couple defensive ones and a couple offensive ones. So the first one is going to be the defensive protocol Protect. When it's used, it's just going to give you a block for a duration. Pretty simple, pretty good. Having a block in your tool.
Yo, the cum shield, dude. Let's go.
Pretty powerful. But you also see at the bottom of that tooltip, you have the Resilient Strain. And these strain bonuses are what I talked about, how it's going to upgrade Evolve. So you see here that Resilient Strain grants you a barrier and resistance when you evolve. So it's a pretty big barrier. This one's super defensive, as I keep saying. This one's probably the strongest defense you can get out of all of the board skills. But that's just going to be one of the 3 bonuses you get. So it's already pretty strong. We can move on to the next one, though, is going to be Defensive Protocol Cleanse. It does.
Actually, sorry. Alright. Briefly block incoming attacks, duration 1.5 seconds, resilient strain, evolving grants you barrier and resistance. Okay. Okay, it's interesting. I don't really see myself using that.
How it's going to
Maybe
upgrade
PvE,
so you see here,
PvP.
Resilient Strain grants you a barrier and resistance when you evolve, so it's a pretty big barrier. This one's super defensive, as I keep saying. This one's probably the strongest defense you can get out of all of the board skills. But that's just going to be one of the 3 bonuses you get, so it's already pretty strong. We can move on to the next one, though, is going to be Defensive Protocol Cleanse. It does what it says. It's going to cleanse you. It's going
Defensive protocol cleanse, convert damaging conditions to barrier and non-damaging conditions to protection. The number of damaging conditions converted is 3. Non-damaging conditions converted is 3. So it's essentially a 6 condition cleanse. Kind of crazy. Evolving heals you over time and grants alacrity. Ooh, that's kind of scary for PvP. I'm kind of terrified by that, bro. That's gonna make you super tanky. It just gives you barrier and protection whenever you cleanse conditions. So non-damaging conditions just go straight to barrier, and then damaging conditions just go to protection. Does that scale increase based on how many conditions you cleanse? Like, what if you cleanse nothing? Do you get no boons, no barrier?
to convert damaging conditions to barrier and non-damaging conditions to protection. So it's going to kind of single out both. So if you have like a lot of non-damaging on you, but some like pretty heavy damaging conditions, you'll be able to get that. This is what you want to take if you're going into like maybe a PvE fight, has a lot of conditions like Greer.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe like a condition conduit in competitive modes. You can take this. It's straight.
No one's going to take this into Greer. I cannot see them taking the cleanse for Greer. You would just run heal turret.
Bonus is going to be the replicating strain. It's going to give you a heal over time and alacrity, kind of like more sustained healing bonuses. I'm going to use that as opposed to the more immediate defensive bonuses from Protect.
Especially if it's got good damaging skills.
On the skills, it's also a stun break. You're losing some of your tool belts, and a lot of the good ones are stun breaks. We wanted to make sure you have the options to take stun breaks with part of these more skills. And I can kind of open up even more normal utility options, because sometimes on Engineer you were kind of constrained of what you could take because you need some stun breaks. But now you can maybe take utility skills that don't have a stun break tool belt, because you can get it here by selecting these specific more skills. The next one is going to be the last defensive one, Defensive Protocol Thorns. It's also going to be a stun break.
I'm sorry. Did I read that correct?
The next one is going
is
to be
it resolution or retribution? Grow protective spikes, damage nearby enemies for a short duration. The spikes react when you are struck, damage nearby enemies around you. The interval is half a second with a 240 radius. Oh damn, that's kind of terrifying with the evolved strain. For short duration, the spikes react when you are struck, damaging nearby enemies. What is the duration? 6 seconds. 6 seconds of thorns. Successfully hitting an enemy will cause an additional strike. Okay. Damn, that's kind of cool. I could see this being useful just because like you get the when evolved, you like hit foes an additional time with a 1/4 second cooldown, which is kind of insane. Especially if you got a lot of like fast hitting skills, you could use this pretty strong.
Protocol Thorns. It's also going to be a stun break. This one is more dubiously labeled a defense. It is pretty offensive in what it does. It gives you a buff that's similar to, people might remember a long time ago, there was a boon called Retaliation. It did damage to people when they hit you. This one is going to be a pretty similar effect. The thorns are going to kind of react and strike when you're struck, dealing damage to enemies nearby you. Pretty important to note that this does have like a melee range requirement. So if there's like range of rapid firing you from far away, you're not going to deal any damage to them. But if you're in the thick of it, maybe in like a worldly world situation, getting hit a lot, this one's going to pump out a lot of damage.
Notably, there is kind of a limit to how often it will retaliate, correct?
Yes, there's a small interval, so you can't do like infinite damage if you're getting hit a lot, but it still does have strong damaging capabilities. Its strain bonus is going to be the Rapacious Strain. This is similar effect to some other.
Dude, I just noticed the thorns damage is kind of insane. Wait, and then my question is, if you hit foes with thorns, does the Rapacious Strain effect trigger as well? Because that would be kind of insane if you're like, you're hitting foes and then you're triggering an additional hit based off the fact they're hitting you. Oof, dude. Because that's effectively like, what, like 700 damage? I guess it's PvE. It's not balanced for PvP.
Its strain bonus is going to be the Rapacious Strain. This is similar effects to some other buffs we have in the game. When you strike foes, you're going to strike them additional time. So it's kind of like One Wolf Pack, Shattering Ice on Catalyst we have, just generating some extra damage. So this one's really, like if you want a defense, a stun break, but you don't want a full defense, still want to
Okay, so you don't gain both
be
effects.
offensive aggressive, maybe in PvE situations. This one's a pretty good pickup for that. But then we can move into the more offensive ones. The first one is going to be offensive protocol Pierce. You're going to create a spike and then jab out with it, stunning enemies. Big note on this one is that it is unblockable. It has a really high wind-up time, so it's pretty easy to see coming. But if an enemy is like shield blocking right in front of you and you decide to take the skill, it can be a pretty good counter to that. Just very
That's cool.
minded. It is.
Damage seems pretty high. Unblockable. It's a stun. That's going to be pretty good.
Loaded with CC, its strain bonus is going to be
Terrifying for
you're gonna
PvP.
stun nearby enemies after delay. So if Cowl falls with it on, you'll see that there's a little white circle, and after delay, another bang is going to stun people. So, you know, if you want to do some breakbar damage in PvE, this is the one you slot on. You get a lot of combo potential as well in competitive modes. CC someone, use some other of the offense we're going to get into. A lot of potential here.
Actually, what did the volatile strain? When you evolve, stun nearby enemies. Yeah, but it doesn't do damage, so you're probably not going to use that evolved.
Other of the offense we're going to get into. A lot of potential here. Then the next one is going to be offensive protocol obliterate. This is probably like the most offensive one you have. It's going to swing a
Yo, that's pretty sick. That's cool.
My direction to the artist was like, make this sword cartoonishly large. You can see a really cool.
This is like a light sword in like Elden Ring or some shit. That's what it feels like to me. Like, you know, where the bosses are like wielding like a sword of light. That's what I'm feeling here. This is really cool. His idea to talk to the artist and just make him massive was a great idea.
Streak on it, but it's going to deal a lot of damage, deal a lot of bleeding, and has a special mechanic that I don't think we've done before, and that is going to break.
Gain a giant blade and maintain your enemy. This attack destroys the barrier of enemy's hit. Oh shit, they added barrier breaker. I think that's good. I think that's good. We actually need something to deal with scourges at the moment, especially if people have been playing push. The fact they just constantly have barrier and there's like no application to just straight up remove it. Like having some skills in the game that might actually just remove barriers is actually not a bad idea. It's like having skills that reveal when there's stealth. It makes sense. You've got like a counterplay to it. Not everything should have it, but I think having like very select things that have like counterplay to it is pretty good. Because like, dude, how good is this gonna be in PvE as well? Imagine you've got like one amalgam, and it's like, because some bosses have just like a permanent like massive barrier, like say for example Twin Largos in CM when they channel their like barrier before they like explode the platform, they get like a shit ton of barrier. You could totally like just strip it, like straight up remove it. The same for like fractals, like you've got Deepstone. While he's doing his channel, he permanently has barrier. If you just like rip that barrier, what then? Like, I could see this being useful in so many places, like even say for example I don't know, but Temple of Febe is gaining constant barrier. If there was a way to make it so you can't get barrier, that would be kind of more effective, I guess. But having the fact that you rip it entirely is probably good for places where it's just a one-off application.
Your enemy's barrier, so that's like all of it. So if you're up against like maybe Ceres and PvE that has a lot of barrier built up on it, or against a Scourge in competitive modes, you can use a skill and break their barrier before you deal the damage.
Dude, is he in my mind? I pre-watched.
So specifically really good if you know you're going to fight someone who has barrier access, but also just does a ton of damage. Its strain bonus is going to be Titanic Strain. Evolving gives you might and also increases the effectiveness of might. It's going to be like 10 might stacks and also make that might even better. So if you have 25 anyways in PvE, it's still going to juice you. Pretty good damage increase, like I said. If you're looking for damage, it's going to be the one with the most throughput there.
I think you should make the sword even larger.
They should have made the sword even larger based CMC moment, dude. True. Make it cool. Like, dude, even the like animation of like the swipe is cool as fuck. But I think, dude, actually a great choice. Making it that you can just straight up remove barrier. Super good. PvP people might disagree. I'm not a PvP person. From PvE perspective, I think it's really good to have something that can deal with the barrier. Yeah. I might try abuse this on Largos. That might be kind of funny. Especially if you about face the glide, like the platform exploding. This could be kind of useful to get some extra. Like, imagine before everyone, because like the Conduit stopped that doing damage every time people glide off. But if you have one person that just chills on the platform, as soon as the barrier gets there, they just rip it instantly, and then people glide off. At least the Conduits are still taking it. It'd be like a big group damage buff. Like it's gonna be hella effective, dude. Like, yeah, you're not gonna pad your damage, but your team's damage is gonna be clapping cheeks.
I agree. It already is like cartoonish. Like I think when you
Hey,
look at it,
Serto.
like it scales like most things do to races, and it's like incredibly big there. So. The next one is going to be Offensive Protocol Shred. This one, you're going to throw out 3 discs, you saw this in the video, that are going to cripple enemies, and if you hit all 3 of them, it's going to apply and immobilize. This one's kind of a gap closer. The spec isn't going to be as fast as Scrapper with its super speed or Hollowsmith with like Photon Forge 2. So this is
Okay, I wanna read that tooltip again.
This one, you're going to throw out 3 discs, you saw this in the video, that are going to cripple enemies, and if you hit all 3 of them, it's going to apply and immobilize. This one's kind of a gap closer. The spec isn't going to be as fast as Scrapper with its super speed or Hollowsmith with like Photon Forge 2. So this is a good, like if you want to make sure you're chasing enemies, this is a skill to take. To go along with that, its upgrade bonus is going to be the Predator Strain, just giving you...
All right, there we go. All right. Launch cutting discs at your enemy that pierce enemies in their path. Enemies struck are crippled. If the enemy is struck by all 3 discs, they are immobilized instead. Okay. Damage seems pretty good. It's piercing, which is pretty good. Evolving grants you super speed and quickness. That's pretty pog. I like that. Yeah. Kind of a little bit of supplementary self-quickness. You're probably running this if you're damaged. I don't see any damaging conditions on this, so it might be a condition build for this is kind of trash. But it's a C.
Quickness and super speed when you evolve to pretty good bonuses to chase people down and deal some damage pretty fast. Then the last more skill we have access to is going to be Offensive Protocol Demolish. This one you're going to swing a hammer around, and then at the end you're going to smash it down.
I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of hope they make this build work well with Conduit. It looks like it's very much power based, which I'm a bit scared of because like if you think about Engineer currently has very good like power damage, right? Hollowsmith, great. Scrapper, great. Mech, great. All 3 of these are power damage classes. Yes, you can play Condition Hollowsmith, except it's like triple kits. You hate life. Actually, no, I think it's 5 kits, isn't it? Because it's Steam Shrieker. I could be incorrect, but yeah, that's kind of oof.
Again, we saw this in the video. This one is really focused around doing heavy AoE damage. So if you're trying to cleave a lot of mobs, if you're in World v World, you want to do a lot of damage.
Bro.
This is a skill you take. To go along with that, when you're in the cut of things, it can be kind of dangerous. So with the Berserk...
Spin around a hunk of metal and then finish with a forward slash. Smash damage. So it's a whirl and a blast finisher. Okay. Okay. I'm a little bit excited for this. Just a little bit. Can do maybe we can do Bomba Bomba with this. Oh my god, Bomba with this build is going to be insane. Because you can get the effectiveness of Might increased as well to like power up the burst even more. Oh no. Bloodstone Relic, dude. Let's go. Oh man, I'm going to enjoy this.
Restraint is going to give you stability and also heal from outgoing damage. So while you're doing that, you're healing yourself, staying up, making sure you don't die while you're in the middle of things. The spec is, you know, pretty much a bruiser spec. There's going to be a lot of defenses baked in and a lot of ways to deal damage, especially from melee range. So everything's trying to synergize around that. And then, you know...
Is it just me or is it like Scrapper but like minus the barrier? So instead of like the barrier, you just get constant healing instead. That's what it feels like to me. I could be incorrect.
With all those in mind, you can see why Evolve is a pretty powerful button. Getting 3 of those bonuses we just went over whenever you want, customizing it for the situation, makes it a pretty good cooldown to have. It's really like a go time button. You're going to press that and people are going to be scared. But that kind of covers the general way you're going to play. With profession mechanics, we can move into the utilities, which are going to be stances.
Actually, I want to go back. He hovered over the elite for a second.
And people are going to be scared. But that kind of covers the general way you're going to play. With profession mechanics, we can move into the utilities, which are going to be stances.
Damn it.
Pretty good cooldown. 3 of those. And then, you know, with all those in mind, you can see why Evolve is a pretty powerful button. Getting 3 of those bonuses we just went over.
There we go. Attribute increase. Okay, so it's 45-second cooldown. You only get evolved for 8 seconds. So hopefully there's a trait that like lowers the cooldown. But yeah.
To trigger that, we'll get into that when we talk about the traits. But this one, it's not going to give you like a burst heal like you normally do. It's going to be a heal over time. And so it's...
Meteoric state, rapidly heal over time. This is kind of terrifying because you can't remove it. Aesthetically pleasing. Hell, dude. RB, how excited are you to see what we can break with the sword attack? I was just thinking, like, would we do Twin Largo CM every time we glide off the platform? Just have one person just boom, hit the barrier, strip it all, and then jump off, dude. That'd be big damage for the group, dude. Like, because you got all that time where the conduits just are not ticking. Unless it's like, unfortunately, constant barrier ticks. But we'll see. Healing you rapid over time. What does it say? Increased with barrier 20%. Let's decimate all bunker scourge. Yeah, I can tell they saw that bunker scourge was becoming a problem, and they were like, "Yeah, we have no way to deal with this." Like, because if you think about it, healing is affected by poison. Poison reduces how much you heal by like 33%. So there is kind of like poison has value inside PvP and PvE. But that being said, there's nothing to deal with barrier. Barriers are unaffected by poison. Healing power modifiers don't really affect barrier that much. To my understanding, like if you get percentage healing increase, it doesn't actually get affected. It doesn't affect barrier output. But healing power itself, the actual attribute, does increase the barrier. So like the percentage bonus doesn't really do much.
Kind of vulnerable to pressure. You know, if people are hitting you while it's healing, they're going to break your barrier pretty fast. So you're going to lose out on that. You might not get the, you know, direct healing that you might get from like an AED or like the normal elixir heal. But it is a pretty strong heal over time, so really good sustain benefit. But then talk about the heal. We can talk about this heal tool belt as it's going to have one because you don't get a morph in that slot. It's going to be symbiotic shielding. It's going to be instant cast, give you barrier mag aura. Pretty good defensive cooldown, get that barrier to trigger the healing. Magnetic aura, as we talked about, not a lot of range or mobility in the kit, and so having that little counter pressure to use just instantly is a pretty good thing to have in the kit. Then we can go on to the just normal utilities. There's gonna be 4 of them based on the states of matter. You saw liquid state in the video, and it's like super cool, but there are also other ones. The first one, we're gonna talk about a solid state. That one is going to be a CC ability. You're gonna leap up in the air, harden yourself, give yourself some stability, and then you're gonna crash down, stunning enemies. And you're gonna get a buff for a little bit that increases outgoing stun duration. So this pairs pretty well with
Stance, leap into the air as you command your body to compact, stunning enemies upon landing. Gain stability, increase your outgoing stun durations for a... Wait, what? Okay, so you just increase the duration of all your stuns? Bro, you just pop this and then pop all your CC skills, dude, and you're bursting, dude. I think this is the first thing I've seen that outgoing stun duration is increased. Interesting.
We talked about if you have throw mine, if you have hammer on, just if you need to do break bar damage, start with this and then throw all your things out. In competitive modes, you know, getting stability and stunning people, pretty strong thing to have. Really good initiation tool.
Dude, that looks so cool. Actually, let me see. Dude, look at that. You land on the ground, just boom. Spikes everywhere. Dude, these legends look... I mean, why am I saying legends? Sorry, my brain is still on Revenant, dude. But Conduit looks great. Amalgam, oh, dude, I'm already sold.
Ability and stunning people, pretty strong thing to have. Really good initiation tool.
But that being said, I still think that they should have made this a condi spec. Engineer has way too many power specs. They need more condition specs.
Then
at least ones that are like more simple, like Mechanist. But yeah.
We talk about liquid state. You're gonna melt down into a puddle. Most importantly, you can move while being a puddle. And then while you're in that state, you're gonna deal damage around you, kind of ticking damage.
Dude, that looks so cool, bro. You the cum puddle.
People that stand on top of you, crippling them, making sure they don't have much mobility. But this one's gonna be kind of a short defensive cooldown mostly. You're gonna evade while you're on. People that stand on top of you, crippling them, making sure they don't have much mobility.
Okay, so it's classified as an evade. Now my question is gonna be, I'm reading here that it says 1.5 second duration, but the evade is 1 3/4 seconds. So it's literally a Vlad pool. Yeah, they were playing League of Legends. You can see. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Like you can tell, like there's inspiration from other games, but it's still kind of cool. Personally, my question is going to be if you have quickness, right, and you cast the skill, is the evade going to remain unchanged? Because if it does, it's kind of scary, right? Where like you cast the skill faster, but you still have like the full duration evade frame. I could see that being pretty strong.
But this one's going to be kind of a short defensive cooldown mostly. You're going to evade while you're under there. So it's going to be a shorter duration than something like Elixir S, but it's also going to have a lower cooldown, be a bit more usable, and also can keep up some pressure while you're, you know, kicking poison onto people that stay on top of you. Then the next one is going to be Gaseous State. You will sublimate, vocab word, breaking stuns, and the next one is going to be Gaseous State. You will
sublimate, breaking stun from yourself, remove movement and parrying conditions, and preventing reapplication. Bro, why you pick big words? Sublimate.
Sublimate.
Alright, interesting. It means to divert or modify into a culturally higher or socially more acceptable activity. Okay, that's the verb meaning. In chemistry, it means another term for sublime. Sublime in chemistry, of very great excellence or beauty. Interesting. I think they probably mean the chemistry meaning, but you can blame Google for giving me the actual word meaning as a verb first. Sublimation is the transition of a substance directly from a solid to a gaseous state without passing through the liquid state. The verb form of sublimation is sublime, or less preferably sublimate. Sublimate also refers to an object obtained by sublimation. All right. You like the first one better? Okay. We don't talk about that. In case there you go. Boom. All right. Sorry. Sublimate, breaking stun from yourself, remove movement impairing conditions, and prevent their reapplication. All right, so 5 seconds. 100% incoming fumble, unrestricted percent. Holy dude, 100% fumble. Holy shit, dude. What the Can you still attack while you're in this form? That's got to be broken, right? Unless it applies to you. I mean,
sublimate, vocab word, breaking stuns, and then you're also going to remove movement impairing conditions and prevent the reapplication because you're kind of like in a gassy, airy state, so how can people immobilize you? You're not going to be completely incorporeal, like maybe misform, but you are going to be a bit hard to hit, so this has a little bit of a new mechanic where incoming strikes against you are going to be glancing blows, so it's basically like as if anyone that hit you had a weakness on them.
No, it's not going to be like anyone hits you is going to have weakness on them because weakness is 50% fumble. This is twice as strong as weakness, bro. This is insane. I don't even play PvP. I know weakness is like a very strong condition. And you just made something that you can damage someone and basically guarantee that they have weakness while hitting you. An improved version of weakness, twice as strong, unrestricted. Yeah, this is getting nerfed. I don't even play PvP that much, and I know that this is getting nerfed.
Really good damage reduction tool. Not completely invulnerable, you can still be CC'd during this, but again, pretty good defensive cooldown. Then the last one is going to be Plasmatic State. This one is going to be the most offensive option you have. You're going to strike out.
Plasmatic State stance, superheat your body and lash out, damaging a burning enemy struck. Your outgoing strike damage and condition damage is increased for a duration. So you get 15% condition damage and 15% power damage. 25-second cooldown. I like the idea of this, but wait, actually, RB, hear me out. You proc Bloodstone Burst every time your Plasmatic State is up. 15% bonus damage on top of the 10% you get from Bloodstone, okay? Dude, think of the burst damage we could be inflicting. Dude, the burst damage is gonna be insane. Dude, this is gonna be like bomb scrapper, dude, on like crack. It's gonna be great.
Twice, giving yourself a pretty good damage buff, and also doing heavy damage from the strikes themselves. This is a pretty high modifier, so usually you want to stack it, you want to evolve, and then use this, stack all your damage multipliers. I think in PvE, the spec is going to have a more bursty damage profile, where you're going to want to save your cooldowns for when you have evolve up, and stack all of them at once to get a really high damage burst off. So managing those cooldowns is going to be kind of important. And then competitive modes, this one is going to be, if you want just more...
Managing your cooldowns is just gonna mean we're playing fractals, burn it all every time the burst phase is up. We're just gonna be ABB, baby, always be bursting. Okay, we're always gonna be bursting, dude. Whenever it's up, dude, we're bursting. They move, we slash GG, we reset the fight.
This is a pretty good button to have. Then lastly, we can talk about the elite. It's going to be Flux State. You're going to kind of command your slime to swirl around you, creating a magnetic field. You're going to initially pull people in and then create like a storm of those like spiky metal things you see going.
Dude, that looks so cool. Dude, engineer. Dude, they just get cool looking classes, man. You know what the worst part is? I'm going to look at the thief one after this, right? Because I was away when they showed the thief spec, and I know that people hated the thief spec. I want to see why. I wish the Virtuoso looks this cool. Yeah, actually, this reminds me of like the blades spinning from Virtuoso, except it's like the range is like way better and like way stronger. You like that one? Dude, I love that one too, Carrie, okay? It's the basis of fractals, okay? And the basis of playing Renegade, okay? Because you've got energy, right? So you want to use your highest energy skills, okay? That's why it's ABB, always be bursting, okay?
So pretty good control thing to start with, and then as you pull enemies in, there's going to be a storm that damages around you. So pretty simple elite skill, again.
Wait, it also pulls. Your slime rapidly spins around you, create a magnetic field, pull in nearby enemies as a magnetic storm swirls around you. Dude, this really does feel like Vlad from like League of Legends, you know? Like you've got the puddle, you got like the AoE. Like I'm just thinking you're just like, you know, any like channels above him and it like splashes out around him. This is like that, but on crack. Dude, this is actually insane. This looks so cool.
Pretty good. I love it. Things. Simple what you want out of the slot. That kind of covers all the utilities. We can move into the traits here quickly. Yep, the first one is going to be Experimental Union, explains what the spec does. That's, you know, can move on to the first interesting one. Is going to be Hybrid Vigor. You're going to gain Vitality, and then this is where the barrier is coming from as Cow is pressing the skills. When you gain Barrier, when you use a more skill. This one's kind of built in Sustain, kind of the heat therapy equivalent of this spec. Doesn't give Vigor, so maybe it's like an unplayable thing, but Hybrid Vigor is like a biology term, so get educated, I guess. Then we can move to the next minor is Willing Host. This one, when you use a more skill, you're going to get yourself
get educated, damn. Using a morph skill increases your damage for a duration, so Willing Host. 10%. Bro, there are so many percentage damage modifiers on this build. Like, yeah, we're gonna be. This is gonna be such a bursty class. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna make the current bomb scrapper look like it doesn't even do burst damage. Oh, RB, yo, we're doing fractals and we're gonna be amalgams, okay? It's gonna be great.
Again, kind of like the baked-in damage increase for the spec. This buff, when you use it, it's not gonna stack duration, it's gonna reset duration, so it's a bit of an incentive to spread out your cooldowns to make sure you always have this buff up. You don't want to maybe slam all your more skills at once and then run out of the damage bonus. You want to make sure you have spread them out so you can, you know, make sure that buff is always on you, getting the most value out of it.
Nah, let's be honest, dude. We just gotta make sure it's up for our Bloodstone burst. That's all that matters, dude. Make sure it's up for our Bloodstone burst, and boom. I used to be a Vlad main. Dude, I was an ADC main, Gary, okay? But I was never good at League of Legends, so.
Then going to the adapt tier, this tier is kind of a theme. They're all going to be defensive. None of them are going to give you a damage bonus, but it's going to be how do you want to pick that defense. The first one, Stainless Steel.
No, they're all defense bonuses, brother. Why you do this to us? All right, Stainless Steel. Convert conditions to boons when you use a stance skill or evolve.
heal is
Meh.
going to be oriented more towards conditions. When you use one of the stand skills or evolve, you're going to convert conditions into boons. So again, if you're going into a place where you would want that.
Wait, that's condition converts? Bro, condition convert is very strong. Like insanely strong.
Cleanse morph against, again, career, any Condi boss, or in competitive modes. This one is probably the one you want to pick. The one below it is going to be Innervating Alloy. Heal every second while you have barrier. Heal when you evolve. So this has pretty good innate synergy.
Heal every second you have barrier, heal when you evolve. So imagine you have a heal scourge or like any heal class that gives you barrier, you just have insane sustain now. Like you just get like a bonus like 100 healing a second. Who needs a wilderness survival when you have cleanse on your elite skill? Dude, forget that. Who wants that when you've got every time you have barrier, which is every time you use a stance skill, you get like 100 healing. I mean, 100 healing is not too broken, but like if you think of all the things that give you barrier in the game, like if you're rocking with a heal scourge, dude, you're just like, you made that heal scourge like heal you like way more.
With that hybrid vigor trait we talked about, this one is not going to provide you an active defense, but it is going to give you sustain over time. So if you can't really decide if you want the top or the bottom, this one's a good middle ground to have, always useful. The bottom one is going to be protection against kind of burst damage, that strike damage, hardened chrome, more skills and evolve.
More skills and evolving, grow on protection to yourself. I'm gonna be honest, PvE, I see you're probably gonna be running hardened chrome or the healing sustain with barrier. Hardened chrome probably is gonna be more valuable. But I'm just gonna guess that like 9 out of 10 times you're running middle trade or like top trade if you need more cleanses. And that's just gonna be what you're running.
Grant protection to yourself. So it can potentially be a lot of little triggers of protection. So it's good with that inventions trait, anti-corrosion plating. Get a lot of triggers off of that. But if you're up against heavy strike damage, this is a trait that's probably gonna give you a lot of value compared to the other two.
Bunker hollow, but easier and cooler.
And, you know,
I could see that.
The interesting level of these traits is going to increase if it goes to tiers. The master trait going to be a bit more interesting. Grandmaster is pretty spicy, so just tease you with that as we talk about the master tier.
Amalgam skills inflict poison on hit. Poison you inflict lasts longer. So when he says amalgam skills inflict poison, does that mean if, say, for example, we take the thorns, so like the... oh shit, thanks, man. So if we take the thorns, does that mean now every time the thorns proc, we inflict poison? Because that's going to be kind of insane, like damage-wise. That's kind of terrifying. Like, I could see there being a Condi build for this. I was scared that there might not be, but I could definitely see there being a good Condi build with this now, especially improving poison. It's just going to matter of how often, and there's no ICD in it either, so like, think about it. When you're hammer spinning, every single hammer spin is going to inflict 8 seconds of poison, which is going to be very strong.
First one is going to be carbolic composition. This one is going to focus on poison application. It's going to
yep, there you go.
Skills, which are just any skill that's special to the amalgam. All the morph skills, all the utilities on hit, they're going to apply poison. And then you're also going to get a pretty big duration increase for poison. Engineer has pretty big duration increase.
Bro, even the elite does it. I wasn't even thinking about the elite. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That looks good. That looks woo.
For both bleeding and burning in the firearms trait line, but poison was kind of not there. So this hopefully make it easier to condition duration cap, specifically with some condition builds, and also be a more biological focus on applying poison and just getting some extra damage, enabling some condition amalgam builds here. The middle one is going to be mercurial tendencies. Disabling an enemy reduces the cooldown of evolve. This is a pretty powerful effect if you can get a lot of CCs in your build. This
one reduce the cooldown of evolve. So it's got an ICD of 1.25 seconds. Recharge time reduced by 3 seconds. Yeah, I could see you just wanting to like burst out evolve all the time, but nah, it'll be interesting.
Going to give a lot of synergy towards hammers, I think. You know, if you're a Juggernaut owner, you want to use it with this spec. And hammer can get a lot of CC procs off. So again, using that, you get evolve off cooldown more and more rotations based on getting those CCs matched up a bit better with plasmatic state damage bonus. Should be pretty interesting. Something you definitely want to be capitalizing around on a damage amalgam build.
Actually, yeah, you've got a lot of CC in this build. Because you've got like the pull. You've got like the yeah, there's a lot of different CCs in this build. And my question is it like 1.25 second per enemy, or is it just 1.25 second per like cooldown? Because remember, you've got like brutal bolts. If you're rocking hammer, you can use hammer 3 to combo into a lightning field to you know, do CC that way. Like, there's a lot of different ways you could do CC on this build, which I could see being terrifying.
And then the last one is going to be Silver Lining. It's gonna do what it says. It's gonna
Evolve no longer inherits bonuses from strains. Morph skills grant their strain bonuses at a reduced duration. CC creep, yeah. Okay, so you gain. Okay, so it decreases the duration, but you do the strain bonus instead when you use the skill. Okay, that's kind of interesting.
be a bit of a downside, but a pretty good upside. Evolving no longer inherits the bonus of strains, so it makes so all you do when you evolve is get that stat bonus, but instead more skills are going to grant their strain bonuses at a reduced duration. So this one shouldn't give you a lot more uptime on those bonuses, but a lot more flexibility of when you use them. So if you do that hammer spin as Cal's doing with it, you're going to get stability at the start. It's a pretty good time to get stability is when you're doing that long cast, and also that healing buff. So you're going to have it when you use Obliterate, get that damage bonus when you want it. So yeah, like I said, just a bit more flexibility. Might be better in competitive modes where it's risky to get all those bonuses all at once, but this is more spread out, but again, lower duration.
I could see this being
that, like, okay, Evolve kind of sucks if I take this trait, but we haven't gone to the Grandmasters there. So all the Grandmasters are going to kind of change what Evolve does a bit and make it to the button. That's already interesting, is like super interesting. So talk about them.
Dude, they had a lot of fun with this, I can tell.
Kind of change what Evolve does a bit and make it to the button. That's
Symbiotic synergy. Evolving reduces the recharge of morph skills. Morph skills deal increased strike damage. Okay. So this here just basically makes it that the morph skills do 33% more damage. And it resets all your morph skills whenever you use the F5. Okay, it's pretty cool. Pretty terrifying too, but basically makes it a full-on reset.
Already interesting is like super interesting. So talk about them. We go to Symbiotic Synergy, the top trait, which has the best trait icon in the game. It's just a little ooze guy that's smiling. But what it's going to do.
I actually do like this icon. It's hella cute. Yeah. Dude, this one has really nice icons.
It's going to cause Evolve to recharge your more skills, and then more skills deal increased strike damage. So recharging all 3 of those abilities is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Getting all that damage back, can get your block back, stun breaks back when you evolve, makes it a pretty good cooldown to have. Pretty big strike modifier for PvE. All these traits, everything you're seeing on the stream is like kind of split for competitive modes. You're seeing the PvE balance. But again, making that cooldown, kind of want to use all your more skills, then evolve, and then have them all back for that moment of power.
Yeah, he knows how broken this is going to be for PvP and World v World. And he's like, yeah, this is going to be split. Like, he already knows that they're going to have to do some balancing to make this work and with the splits.
Power, pretty strong moment. And then I think all the other Grandmasters are going to be strong as well, compete with that. We can skip to the bottom to talk about Double Helix. Evolve is going to grant an additional charge and grant a bonus to its increased stats.
Wait, what the fuck? Evolve has 2 charges and grants increased attribute bonuses. You're probably just running this. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, you're likely just running Double Helix.
So this one is going to give you double the evolves, which is pretty good, and make it a bit stronger, getting that stat bonus to 15%. And having 2 charges means that you can kind of choose when you want to evolve. Again, when we talk about Silver Lining, some of these bonuses are things you want to time specifically. So just having that extra charge and knowing you can use one of them off cooldown, but always having another one when you want that stability, that resistance, anything that you want, that quickness, super speed on demand, can be pretty powerful. This trait has a lot more burst potential. You can use 2 evolves back to back to get some really high bonuses, where I expect maybe Symbiotic Synergy is a more sustained damage option.
Okay, what's the middle trait though?
Master trait. And this one is potentially the most interesting. It's going to be Contagious Mutation.
Strain enhancements effects are shared to nearby allies when activated with a reduced duration. Wait a second. Duration decrease of 25%. Number of allies 5. Is this gonna be like one wolf pack, but like on steroids? Like, does this include strain enhancements? Okay, so it doesn't include the F5, so you don't get the bonus attributes, I'm assuming. I hope they'd show that.
Strain enhancement effects are shared to nearby allies when activated with a reduced duration. So that's all the effects we just talked about. You give your allies the resistance, the quickness, the super speed, even the special ones, you can give them that strike bonus from a pace of
Even the strike bonus? Bro. This is gonna be insane for bursts and fractals. Like, you're gonna help your team burst so hard. What the fuck?
Strain, you can give them increased might effectiveness. It's going to take a
Yeah. You can give them the Berserker Strain, which makes them heal a percentage of their damage dealt. You're just not gonna need a healer. You're gonna give them the on-hit strike effect from the Thorns. Actually, wait, why are they not getting the on-hit strike effects from the Thorns? That's a good question. Oh, because he's running the bottom trait, so he has to actually use the skill to get the unique effect. Yeah, you're going to be able to burst insanely hard in fractals with this. There's like... Yeah, this is terrifying, actually. What the fuck?
duration decrease. You're sacrificing a lot to take this trait. You're not going to get like the cooldown reduction from Evolve. You're not going to get the double charges. But if you're in a group situation, this is probably a really good trait to have.
This like... Even if you lose the damage, the group's damage overall is going to go up by such an extent that it's not going to matter. Like, yeah, you give them the additional hits on Ravenous Strain. Like, yeah, that's kind of insane. You give them the might bonus effectiveness. Like, this is definitely going to way outweigh the negatives. Unique damage increase modifier for everyone in your party. Dude, this is insane for PvE. Like for fractals, like having one amalgam, they're just gimping their own damage. But if you have one other person that can pump, dude, you're gonna be like juicing them the fuck up, dude. They're gonna be on steroids. Even if you have like 3 amalgams, right? No, but the unique buffs won't stack. So you would need something that bursts hard, so maybe like an amalgam with a scrapper. You can make the scrapper like burst even harder.
A lot of potential, a lot of things that this could just be broken. That's what betas are for. So very excited and interesting to see what people do with this trait. Gonna keep
like, think about this, Arby, okay? You're on one amalgam, a quick scrapper, and an Alacrin, right? Dude, you are gonna be fucking bursting like crazy, dude. Especially because if you run the heal trait, right, with the strain bonus, right, they basically heal when based on the damage they deal. Oh no, it's not the heal, the F2, right, that he's got currently. They heal for 20% of the damage they deal. Bro, they're like in fractals, healing for 20% of the damage you deal. You don't need a healer. You're straight up just running an amalgam to heal people. And it's literally just buffing the shit out of everyone, dude. You think about it, you just every single burst phase, you just amalgam strain. I mean 45 seconds is kind of a longish cooldown, but why wouldn't you just like pre-cast this? Like, this is insane. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, dude. You might just not need a healer, especially if they run like a heal turret on top. Like him and the scrapper both run a heal turret, and you just blast the water fields whenever you need healing. Like, you just straight up don't need a healer at that point.
eye on it for sure. It does work with Silver Lining, so if you have both Contagious Mutation and Silver Lining, you're going to share to allies when you use those more skills, so just even more choosing when to give things. They are going to stack the duration bonuses, so I think it's like only 3 seconds you share to allies, but still pretty powerful application. You do have the ability to grant both Quickness and Alacrity if you take both of those, but you have to make a lot of sacrifices to do that, so potentially fine, we will see.
I didn't even think about that. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. You have a way to apply both quickness and alacrity. Oh, no. Oh, no.
But yeah, that is...
You can see on CMC's face when he mentions it.
Fine, we will see. If you take both of the eyes, but still pretty powerful application. You do have the ability to grant both Quickness and Alacrity if you take both of those, but you have to make a lot of sacrifices to do that, so potentially fine, we will see.
Look at his eyebrow. Can you see that? Do I need to zoom in so you guys can see that? Let me just snip that. There we go. Screenshots. Where is it? bro. When he says it. Yeah, dude, you can already see he's like, oh no. Why did you mention that? He just seen you.
But yeah, that is the amalgam. Pretty
It's the
good.
amalgam. What's your favorite morph skill?
I think obliterate, like the sword is just so good, and just like cranking
Fuck,
with it, like,
dude.
it hits really hard.
CMC
so
is aware. You can see he's like smiling because I bet you the chat is like, oh no, quick and alacrity
For
together.
the elite specs, there's nothing more to see here today.
What is he trolling? Is he legitimately trolling?
I guess we can talk about the evoker.
Dude, they left the evoker until last because everyone was like there for it.
Which one is your favorite?
Which one is my favorite? I really like the hair, I think.
Yo, dude, CMC base, dude. I also like the hair, dude. Ah, dude. Like, the hair looks so cool, dude. Okay, just the dashing around, you know? Just like, oof.
They're all so good, though. It's like, we'll show them all off as we get in here. Let's see, just make sure everything's set up properly. Put on some skills. All right, let's do it. Evoker, the last.
Yeah, we're gonna skip ahead.
Video. So first things first, you pick an element to specialize in. You do that on the F5 slot here. Similar mechanic to how the amalgam skills work, where there's kind of selectable profession skill, and here we can choose from, you know, the fox.
Yeah, we're gonna go back. We're just gonna look at the icons, okay?
Amalgam skills work, where there's kind of selectable profession skill, and here we can choose from.
I'm gonna be honest with you. The otter looks kind of adorable. And I don't know why, but the toad looks so dumb. Like, look at him. Just look at him, dude. He looks so wise, you know?
You know, the fox or the otter or the hare or the toad. Let's just give them the time that they deserve here on the screen. So here's the fiery fox, of course. Water otter. The air hare. And of course the earth toad. So the idea here is that...
Jeez. Yeah, that shouldn't be right unless you're like tabbing out and in, but...
you pick an element to specialize in. That's going to do a few things. First of all, there will be some traits and utility skills that care about your specialized element. We'll get to those in a little bit. They're also going to see a significantly reduced recharge time of the element you specialize in. So here I am specialized in fire. So when I swap out of fire, you're going to see it goes on the short recharge time that all of the other attunements go on. This is a number that we're definitely playing around with, trying to find like the right balance between this really feels like you have more flexibility. Like obviously people know fresh air, the trait just gives you a lot more flexibility in how you use your air skills, when you need to use your air skills, because you can kind of always go back. Similar idea here. There are...
The one thing, okay, so the one thing that they mentioned with the familiars that I found a bit strange was it decreases the cooldown of the specific element that's tied to the familiar. But with that being said, say for example, you're running air, you have bolt to the heart, which basically just, no, sorry, fresh air. I don't know why I said bolt to the heart. Bolt to the heart's the other element. Yeah, fresh air is basically like you instantly recharge that, that ability to go into that attunement. So like, I don't know why, like what is that going to do? Like you're basically just not going to run fresh air like ever. Like I could see that being the case, but it's just like, yeah, it's an interesting interaction, but it kind of just means that like, at least for the most part, like you're just going into that specific element, which I think is cool. I think they wanted to make it where you're like kind of just like a one type mage, so it's not as piano, but it's probably still going to be piano, let's be honest.
Are a number of traits obviously that trigger when you enter an attunement. Some of these are balanced for the Weaver profession in that they cannot trigger when you attune to the same element, and those traits specifically will have an internal cooldown when you have the specialized element. So if I have, for example, Healing Ripple is the example in the water.
There you go, Venerous, you're now free. Anonymous just saved you. Someone anonymous just saved you. Whoever that was, thanks for the sub.
Water trait line, the one that says heal when you swap to water, that will not be able to trigger every single time if you are quickly swapping in and out of water because it might be a little bit too powerful, but it will still have more, there will be increased access to that because you can just wait a little bit longer, or you know, it's going to be every other time that you swap into water or every third time depending on how quickly you are swapping. Keeping a pretty close eye on how that plays. You know, is this short recharge the right number? It fit pretty well with just how attunement mechanics work already, so that was kind of the baseline. but it could be a little bit longer. Maybe the traits don't need internal cooldowns then, but that's something we'll be looking for a lot of feedback on during the beta. But for now, it is just your specialized element will always have this low recharge time. And that, again, just gives you a lot of extra flexibility.
Sorry, wait, what?
Will always have this low recharge. That's something we'll be looking for a lot of feedback on during the beta. But for now, it is just your specialized element will always have
a 1 second cooldown on your specialized element no matter what? Bro, I thought it was going to be like half the cooldown. I did not realize it's going to be 1 second. That is insane. That's basically going to be like you use the 2 damaging skills in the other element and you're back.
this low recharge time. And
that's actually insane.
I think Dagger with Air is a great example of this, where Shocking Aura, Ride the Lightning, Updraft, these are all skills that are pretty situational. So if you swap out of Air and then you don't have access to those for like 10 seconds or 8 seconds or whatever your attunement recharges and how much alacrity you have, there's so many variables that go in, but you have that longer window of opportunity for like enemies to capitalize on. I know there's no Shocking Aura available, but now you can have a much lower recharge and always be able to go back.
Ellie still, like, if you're attuned to fire, which you likely are going to be for Condi, your CC is still going to be dog. I could still see it being pretty bad.
To those utility focused skills, or always go back to the auto attack that you like the most as you use the other skills in your build. So last up, we have the familiar. Obviously, we get a familiar when we specialize in an element. And the way that this works is it's obviously not like a ranger pet or a mechanist mech. It is intended to be more like a companion combatant, where we're really trying to capture the feeling of this familiar kind of fighting alongside of you. So the way that it works is using a weapon skill is going to start charging up this meter. And we talked about this a lot in the blog too. Here I used an air skill with my Firefox, so it gave me 1 charge. But if I go back to fire attunement and I use a fire skill, that's going to give me 2 charges toward my, we're calling it the basic skill. We see another note here about an empowered skill. We'll get to that pretty soon. But the idea is, again, you can charge up your familiar skill more quickly, and then that will, as you're fighting, build up your familiar's power. It can contribute a attack as well. You can see a nice little fireball. We'll talk exactly about these skills. There's still a little bit more to explain about how this charging mechanic works. Currently, for the beta, it will not charge up when you're using an auto attack, and it will not charge when you use a flip skill. And the goal here is that trying to normalize the rate gain across different weapons a bit better. Obviously, comparing something like Scepter, something like Staff with Fire, the auto attack speed is significantly different. So it would blow out pretty heavily if you got 2 from using auto attack. It could use 1. This is still something that we're thinking about a lot. Whether or not there should be charge from using utility skills, whether there should be charge at a reduced charge for auto attacks, maybe even give like half of a charge, for example. So we'll definitely be looking for feedback on this in the beta. But for the baseline, the first implementation is that as you use basically your 2 through 5 skills, that is going to contribute charge to your familiar's basic attack. So you will be using your skills, and then the familiar will power up here, and we're going to see Fire Ignite here from the.
They literally saved the best for last. Probably, yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of biased. Okay, I like the Rev. I like the Amalgam a lot too, because the Amalgam I know is gonna be busted for fractals, but like the Ellie, it's probably also gonna be busted. Let's be real. I think these 3, I think out of all of them, these 3 have the possibility to be extremely broken. And then the other one that could be extremely broken is Troubadour. Just because of the AoE involved.
Firefox, this is just shooting out a burning projectile, and the idea is that each time you strike the same enemy in quick succession, it's a pretty generous window, so quick is kind of a misnomer. I think it's like a 10-second window to hit the same target.
Alright, wait. Ignite Familiar, the fox fires a ball of flame that burns enemies. Enemies who are struck multiple times in quick succession receive additional burning. Okay. So you just want to burn. It doesn't seem like too insane damage-wise.
That will inflict additional burning. So I'm just going to start cheating and have infinite energy here, infinite charge. And so we will kind of start from 0. It did not quite start from 0. But we see here that inflicting 1 burning, then 2 burning, then 3 burning on the 3rd hit. And after we use the basic skill 3 times, so I hope you guys like counting to 3 because you can count to 3 in your fire attunement, and then count to 3 as you use the basic skill to the empowered skill. And that will then unlock the empowered skill of the familiar. The idea is that you can then.
Wait, that's the that's the fire epidemic, isn't it? Yeah. Conflagration, dude. I don't even know how to say that.
Conflagration.
All right, I was close. An extensive fire which destroys a great deal of land or property. Okay, interesting.
Then unlock the.
So damage is, so what it does is it inflicts burning and then spreads the burning on that foe to nearby enemies. So maximum stack. Okay, they nerfed it. They nerfed it already. They were saying, oh yeah, we don't know how many stacks we're gonna have transferred, and then immediately they're like, oh yeah, the stacks transferred is gonna be 9. Like they already reduced it, and it inflicts 3. 360 blast radius. That's roughly boon application range. So the range isn't as far as epidemic. So I think that might actually be fine because the range isn't as far as epidemic. The range on epidemic's what makes it like extremely strong, as well as like the damage that it used to deal. But it's still like insanely powerful. Like I could see this being very, very strong. Say for example, you're doing Greer CM. You cast configuration on Greer and you hit the ads, kind of insane, or you do the inverse where, you know, one of you guys inflicts bounces it onto the ad and then everyone just bounces it back. Like you're probably at max burning stacks anyway if you're doing Fire Wizard. Let's be real. But this is probably just going to be like more damage.
Empowered skill of the familiar. The idea is that you can then conjure it into the world and it will form a much more powerful attack. So here we see conflagration, kind of the ultimate skill of the Firefox, is that it will spawn into the world, attack your targeted enemy, inflicting burning, and this will then also spread burning on that target to nearby enemies. So kind of an epidemic effect, but only for burning. So we see here, you know, build up that burning on this target, then we're gonna hit with conflagration. That's gonna get a pretty big burn spread, assuming you hit everything. And then the idea here is that there is a cap on how much burning you can do. We thought that applying 1,500 stacks of burning might be too much. So here we see the maximum stack count is 9. It's gonna be a little bit lower in competitive modes as well. And there's again, just another thing that we're keeping a pretty close eye on. Like we want the skill to feel really strong. Transferring 9 stacks or copying 9 stacks of burning to nearby enemies is pretty strong, but you know, maybe it could be a little bit higher. We'll see as we get further in.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. You're probably gonna play Fire with Power and with Conduit, and then it's just gonna be like the Bloodstone Burst, right? Like the current Fire Wizard. It's gonna be so funny. Except you're just gonna go into Earth to do additional bomb like explosions whenever it's off cooldown.
And then once you have used the empowered skill, we see the center meter reset back to 0, and the familiar will kind of come back to its floaty hover state. So notably, the familiar will just follow you around in this state, and just, you know, float, chasing you around the world, but companion for your adventures. Importantly, when you activate the basic skill, the familiar will find.
You know what's funny is it's still gonna have better AI than the pets. Still better AI than pets, man.
You wherever you are, just to make sure that it's in the right position. It will kind of teleport over to you and make sure that, you know, this is firing off a projectile with a certain range. We want to make sure that it is based pretty closely to your range, and we'll see this.
F the spear on engineer. Dude, the spear is like way more like user friendly than the pistols. Just in general. The pistols, like a lot of the skills on pistol cancel other pistol skills. They're not that great. Put GPT-5 into the summon? Dude, yes.
On a number of other skills as well, but the familiar will always come to your location. Notably, if you do...
Dude, this is basically Summoner from Final Fantasy XIV, right?
Get really far away, the familiar didn't get far enough away, but if you get far enough away, it will eventually just teleport to you again. Kind of a nice catch-up mechanic here, similar to how like a lot of pets work as well. But most importantly, this is not a ranger pet, it's not a mechanist mech, it's not something that is attackable or in the world. It is a familiar, like ally combatant that is powered up through your own weapon skills. So that is the Firefox. We saw Ignite and Conflagration. So let's go ahead and move into the Water Otter next. Notably, we will see quite a bit of flexibility on this spec. I'd argue that it rivals Amalgam, if not overtakes it, with the amount of flexibility in this profession based off which element.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Obviously, we're going to see a lot more condition damage from fire. We'll see a lot of heals and supportive stuff from water, strike damage, power damage coming out from the air, hair, and more of that bulky bruiser type playstyle from the Earth Toad. Let's go ahead and move into the Otter. So, basics.
Okay, the Otter throws small orbs of water at nearby allies, healing them and grants in regeneration. Number of allies is 5 with a 600 range, unblockable. That's kind of interesting that it's unblockable. I wouldn't have thought you could block.
This is going to throw out a few healing projectiles nearby allies. That's a little bit of healing, a little bit of regeneration there. Nothing too crazy, but just a nice solid healing skill. Then once we build up.
Okay, my first instinct and question is going to be, the projectiles still get destroyed going through stuff that's invulnerable, right? Like that's still gonna happen. I'm highly doubtful that that's gonna be fixed with this.
To that empowered skill, we're going to see Buoyant Deluge. This is a pretty powerful.
Buoyant Deluge, summon the otter to throw a massive ball of water at the target location. When the ball lands, it heals allies in an area and removes conditions from them while stunning nearby enemies. Okay, so conditions are removed 3. It gives 2 seconds of regen, multiplied by 4. Radius is 360. Okay, I think probably maybe buff the radius a bit because it's centered on a target.
Powerful skill does a lot of things. So we see here that we're going to just, let's take a look at what the otter actually does here. It's ground target skill. I'll pick the area. Let's throw it on our allies. We want to heal them. So the otter kind of come in, play around with a little bit of
Oh, that visual effect looks really nice, actually.
water stuff, and then fire off a big ball of healing water. You know, mostly healing water, but it doesn't.
Oh, look at, dude, actually that animation is super cute. Look at it. It like lies on his stomach and then it like hits it with its tail.
Have some offensive components here. This skill's really fun. I love the animation of this skill so much. But we see that this is going to heal these allies, create a water field. This is going to
That's actually adorable.
As well, very powerful with something like cleansing water, and then also remove some conditions. And then the extra bonus here is when you throw it on enemies. Generally, you're going to be throwing it on allies to heal them. But if you also have overlapping.
Oh my god, it puts a fucking bubble on them? Dude, that looks sick.
Enemies, we're going to see that bubble kind of traps those enemies inside, doing a stun. So a really powerful skill. That was quite a.
That looks so nice. What the? Is this the new Pokemon? Dude, they're gonna get sued by Nintendo. They gotta be careful.
Few things. Quite, a lot of these empowered skills, they are a little bit less accessible when you are not given infinite charge. So they are going to be all super impactful, very powerful skills. Just give some more screen time to the otter. It's got a nice little shell necklace. Next up, we have the air hair. This one's going to be, again, more strike damage focused.
The hair creates a burst of lightning at the target location, damaging enemies and marking them to take increased damage from your critical strikes. Okay, so they've kind of thought about the fire burn damage, and they kind of don't want it to be power damage focus. I'm happy water is having this cool on it. Yeah, I like the animation too. It looks really cool. Zap for 5 seconds. Critical strikes deal more damage to marked enemies. Does this work for everyone or just yourself? There's no ways this works for everyone. Because if it does, this is busted.
Just starting off with a zap. It's just going to be a ground target damage skill. See some damage. We see this mark being applied. The way that this works is that it will mark enemies to take increased damage from your critical strikes. They won't augment ally critical strikes, but your own critical strikes will get a nice little damage bonus here. So you will be wanting to continuously zap your enemies in order.
Any condition engineer build uses spear on board of it. Yeah, well, the reason for that is just because spear does more damage. Like pistol is still behind it by a small margin, and you could probably still get projectiles. But like for the most part, like spear is just better. And then if you need ranged attacks anyway, you're just going into nades. Like you don't need to be running like a separate weapon just to be ranged.
To keep that up, or it will rather create some more bursty windows of opportunity. We need to really get a close up on this image as well. We see the hair doing a little bit of spell casting, does a little backflip to fire off that burst of lightning. And that eventually is going to flip over into lightning.
Lightning Blitz. Summon the hair to Shadow Step 2 and attack enemies around your target for critical damage. Bun Bun, yeah. No, it's even more strong than Ferocity. The reason why critical damage increase is so insane, and it was on, I think the only class that's ever had increased critical strike damage was Chrono. Chrono used to have it with Danger Time. I'm not sure if it still does, because I know I think they added something back to it. It's like Precision or something, I can't remember. And it was extremely strong. Because basically, like, it's multiplicative, not additive. Whereas when you get Ferocity, it adds crit damage to, like, Whereas, like, if you think about it, your Ferocity is like a crit multiplier. And then the percent damage bonus you get on top of crits gets applied after that, right? It doesn't get added into the crit multiplier for Ferocity. So it's like it gets multiplied by Ferocity, and then it gets multiplied by the crit damage multiplier. So it's like, instead of additive, it's multiplicative, which is why it's like insanely strong. They're probably going to nerf that number. I hope if it affects allies too, it's broken, especially for power damage.
Blitz. This is going to be just a big strike damage skill. The idea is that the hair, you summon the hair and it kind of dashes so quickly between your enemies to the point that it might actually be teleporting. But that is just going to be doing guaranteed critical damage on every strike, so that plays really nicely into the zap debuff, obviously. But
I really do like the animation for that. I really do like the animation for the hair. I do wish it was slightly longer. It looked longer in the preview, but they made it like shorter.
We will of course see the hair continue to strike that single enemy and kind of power up, doing a bunch of strikes, bunch of damage, and then again coming back to the baseline of floating next to you.
Hey, Essence.
Big damage coming
Hey.
out from, assuming you have real equipment equipped. Precision and ferocity. I guess you don't need precision for that skill, but I would recommend a lot of power and ferocity.
We're just having a look over the stream from last
and
night.
Last but not least, we have the Earth Toad.
Actually, wait, did he?
Precision and kind of enemy on every strike, so that to the point that it might actually be teleporting. Fire.
I want to go back and see this.
Mark being applied. The way that this works is that it will mark enemies. Take increased damage from your critical strikes. They will
Okay.
an ally critical strikes, but your own
Okay,
critical strikes.
that's why I wanted to
will
check.
bonus
It's only yours.
So we will be wanting to continuously there and it kind of dash.
Sorry, let me. I'm sure you guys don't want to hear it blinking around while I catch back up.
And last but not least, we have the Earth Toad. Again, leaning more into like this bruisery defensive playstyle, a little bit of crowd control, or a lot of crowd
What
control.
the dude? The toad looks so derpy, bro.
Break though as we watch the marvel that is the Earth Toad.
it's so derp. What the fuck?
Calcify. And the idea here is
I need to watch it too at that speed. Dude, I watched it at 1.5. Dude, I have the attention span of a it's pretty bad. The toad unleashes an earthen blast that dazes nearby enemies. Gain barrier if you strike an enemy that is using a skill.
that it's just gonna be a quick casting interrupt. Short-ish days. Actually, again, the toad will teleport on top of you to make sure that it is hitting those nearby enemies. If you do strike an enemy that is using a skill, this is also going to give you a bit of barrier. So nice little defensive tool. A little bit of strike damage on this, but the main focus is, again, that crowd control and that defensive component as well.
Okay.
Look at this up times. Earth Toad doing some magic. Firing out some rocks. And that is going to flip over.
Seismic impact. Summon the toad at your location. The toad leads up, slams the ground, knocking down enemies and creating a rocky barrier that enemies can't cross. Allies in the area gain protection. So it's a knockdown for 2 seconds. 4 stacks of bleed, blast finisher. It's kind of interesting.
Into seismic impact. This is going to be that big crowd control moment. We're going to see the toad comes in, kind of stomps on the ground. The first hit here is going to knock down enemies. All going to create this ring of earth, similar to like the ring of warding mechanics that we've seen in a few places where enemies cannot cross through unless they do have stability. But it is kind of that earthen cage to keep enemies trapped inside. And then we did.
It looks kind of cool, actually.
Bleeding cripple coming out on the second stomp there as well. So
I do like the visuals for this. Actually, looks really cool, very clean.
just that pretty solid bruiser skill. We see that this area is also going to give protection to nearby allies, including yourself. So again, big crowd control, a little bit of damage, and a nice little defensive skill is, again, the theme of the Earth Toad. Let's see it one more time. Seismic impact.
Just double jumps.
Following you around.
Just
the familiar.
I could see that, Vendors, but it's kind of like it's a small AoE, so I don't think it's going to be as impactful in PvP and world versus world. Like, it might be for like smaller objectives, but
Mechanic. Obviously, like I said, we're still looking for a lot of feedback around like charge rates and skill impact levels, and there's a lot of ways that we can tune this mechanic, as we talked about already. It's like, should auto attacks count? Should utility skills count? Should flip skills count? Should it be faster? Should it be slower? The beta is going to give us a lot of this information, and all you guys feedback in the chat and the beta, playing the beta is going to give us kind of the right balance of these things, such that it feels like this is a fairly active companion fighting alongside.
I do hope that they do sift through a lot of the like comments in the Reddit, because a lot of the people that comment there aren't that informed either. So they're going to have to like very much like look at what is being said and check it out for themselves.
So next up, we can hop into the utility skills. We'll start with the healing skill with this lovely image of the otter getting a pat on its head. Rejuvenate. So this is just going to
Dude, they had fun with this, you can tell. Heal yourself and charge your familial skill. Okay.
be a pretty short cooldown healing skill. Nothing too crazy. It's going to heal you, and it is going to give you a charge, full charge of your familiar basic skill. So this will just kind of accelerate your building toward that empower skill just a little bit, in addition to obviously giving you that healing skill. Nothing too crazy. But some nice visuals. This one doesn't really care what your familiar is. The elite skill doesn't care what your familiar is either. But now we'll take a look at these utility skills that do have a slight amount of caring about what your utility skill or what your specialized element is. I'm going to swap back to the Fox because the first thing we're going to talk about is Fox's Fury.
Okay, so this is a meditation. Grant boons to nearby allies and then inflict burning on your target based on the amount of might you have. If fire is your specialized element, this skill breaks stun. Interesting. Damage over 20 might is 1,000. Okay, but you're probably more Condi focused. Okay, so 3 stacks over 20 might. Pretty much if you're specializing in fire, I'm fairly sure you're going to be above 20 might. At least in PvE, you should almost always be above 20 might. So that's like 3 stacks of burning whenever. It's going to be pretty cool.
This is going to give some defense, or some offensive boons rather. Still, my mind was stuck in the Toad land of defense, but here we are with Fox's Fury. This is going to give some might, some fury to your nearby allies, and then you're going to attack an enemy, do some damage, and do some burning. And the damage and burning here is going to scale based off how many might stacks you have. So we have a few different thresholds here. If you have less than 10 might, you're going to get kind of the weakest version of the skill. And between 10 and 20 might, you get the middle version of the skill. And then if you want the big damage, the big burning, you're going to want to have 25 might stacks, as you probably do as you're running around in raids or open world PvE or anything like that. Notably, the might from this skill will count first. It's not going to be enough on its own to get you over that first threshold, but if you just have a couple of might stacks lying around, you can always at least get the middle value of the skill. And assuming you have, say, 12 might, 13 might is over 20 might, then you can get the full value of the skill.
Okay, so it applies the might first and then triggers how much might you have to see if it wants to give you the buff or not. That's interesting.
And for anyone reading the skill fact as I'm rambling here, we see that if fire is the specialized element, this skill will be the stun break. That's kind of the baseline mechanic implemented for all of the utility skills here. Your specialized element will control which of these skills is your stun break. We think that there still needs to be a little bit more here. Didn't quite get in for the beta, but there is going to likely be. We're already kind of looking ahead toward making the specialized element kind of pump up these skills even a bit more than just having that stun break component. So keep that in mind as you are giving feedback around these skills.
I feel like the stun break component is kind of like meh. Like, I don't think it's going to be that impactful. I think you're better off probably just giving it another effect. Like, oh, it does like, it doubles the burning, or like, you know, something like that. Like it increases the amount of burn you have, or like something a bit more like in tune with that specific element. Like I do, like stun breaks do have value, I guess, but like ideally you want to, like this is a damage skill. Like in PvE, you're using this as part of your rotation. If you want to keep the breaks done, maybe keep it for like PvP, I guess.
If there's anything that you have in mind, you know, it should just be more damage, more burning. Maybe that makes sense for this one. Maybe we should do something else. Maybe it could give you more might stacks so you hit that second threshold, third threshold a bit easier. That is something that we are considering moving forward. It's just for the beta, the specialized element will make the associated utility skill into a stun break. So next up, we'll take a look at the Otter's Compassion. Notably, these are meditations. Forgot to mention that, but anyone who can read the skill facts will know that. Kind of fits the theme pretty well. Like, you know, the spirits of the wild. And
yeah. It's basically like the Timid Shout without the aura. Yeah, pretty much. Convert conditions on nearby allies into regeneration. If water is your specialized element, the skill breaks stun. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think remove the regeneration. Remove the regeneration and just make it convert the conditions into their opposite counterpart. Because the Otter skills, all of the skills grant regeneration. There's so many easy ways to apply regeneration inside of water. I don't think you're gonna need additional regeneration. And like 1.5 seconds of regen is just not. Yeah, it's gonna scale up 5 times, which is gonna be what, like 7.5 seconds of regen. It's like whatever, but like if you convert the conditions, it just adds a lot more like variety to the build and a bit more of like a skill ceiling that you can use. I think that'd be way more interesting than what they're currently doing with it.
Communing with these elemental familiars, meditation fits pretty well, and you know, there's at least one relic that cares about meditations, so maybe you take that, get a little bit of extra protection. Here we see Otter's Compassion. Again, this will be the stun break if you have the Otter. Only for yourself, not for allies. But the way this skill works is that it will convert conditions on yourself.
Okay, I'll be honest, that's the other thing. I would make this affect allies too, the stun break. But then you'd have to increase the duration, like the cooldown. Nope, I think it's fine. 600 radius is pretty large too.
By allies, specifically into regeneration. That is important once we get into the traits. Obviously, cleansing water exists as well. So you can remove 5 conditions, gain 5 stacks of regen, which obviously stacks in duration, but it will give you 5 instances of regen, which could then trigger cleansing water 5 more times. And that's kind of insane when you think about it. It could be a cleanse 10. But just a powerful, defensive conduit removal, a little bit of healing from that regen, but a, pretty straightforward water-associated skill. Show that. There's a little burst of water energy coming out here as you remove conditions from your allies.
Okay, so it's like pulsing.
Next up, it doesn't really matter that I specialize because we're not showing off the sunbreak component. It is there.
Dash your location while evading attacks. Your next few strikes create an arc of chain lightning. If air is your specialized element, the skill breaks stun. Hair's agility. Striking a foe will create a chain lightning attack on that foe. I'm gonna be honest. One thing that would be cooler is if they made it a teleport and not a dash. But
we do like to have the hair here because the hair again is the best of the familiars, and there is no argument for any of the other 3 except they're all good. Hair's agility. There's going to be a ground target, mobility skill, evasion, dash. You see, pretty good distance. Not super long range, but reasonable amount that you can kind of escape.
That looks really cool, actually.
And it's also going to give you stacks of this venom-esque buff called Hair's agility, named after the skill. This is going to cause your next attacks to inflict chain lightning. Let me see here, just getting a little bit extra of that.
Nice zooming. I do think it's also nice that they're adding unique buffs. But one thing I do hope that they add with this change is that they separate the unique buffs. So currently we have 3 tabs. We have boons at the top, conditions underneath that, and then you have your buffs, right? Which is like I don't know. They just need to separate it so it's a bit easier to see what's what and potentially increase the scaling of the size of the important ones.
The chain lightning strikes we can generate.
But I mean, you could always run add-ons to do that, but I don't really like needing to run add-ons to do that.
Damage coming out, so kind of a hybrid defensive and offensive skill here. Nice little.
Because the problem is you can see he's got the movement speed buff and the fire attunement. These 2 things are put next to each other, whereas this here is not as important, right? If you've got an EXP boost, it's also going to be on the same tab as this unique buff, right? And you're yeah. I would prefer it if it was on a separate tab, but it would require them moving stuff around.
Lightning effect says you're not quite as fast as the hair. You don't get to teleport across the entire map, but you can evade attacks as you dash and get that buff. Again, this will be a stun break if you have the hair. Last up, we have Toad's Fortitude. This is going to be more of that defensive skill again, but it
Toad's Fortitude, Meditation, block incoming attacks, then strike nearby enemies with Shattering Rocks, gain protection if the skill completes successfully. If Earth is your specialized element, it breaks stun. Okay, so inflicts 4 stacks of bleed, 30-second cooldown. You're probably just running as a defensive skill. It's not really condi damage skill.
We'll have some offensive components. We see some bleeding on there. We see protection. We see a bit of damage as well. This is going to be a short duration block. So you're going to want to use this at the right time, block the key attacks, and then this will explode outward, this kind of earthen barrier.
Okay, that might be
damage, do some bleeding.
Cool enough. I thought it would be longer block.
Protection, assuming you aren't interrupted by some sort of unblockable crowd control. And then, of course, if you do have the earthen specialized element, this will...
I do think it would be cooler if this gave barrier as opposed to protection, just as a random side note. Or if you do block an incoming attack, it gives protection. I think that'd be cool.
Will be a stun break.
Add some skill ceiling to it.
Last up, we have the elite skill. So what could it do? You might get a hint from the icon. The idea is that this will kind of give you access to all of the familiars, and you guys might have noticed this in the teaser video that was kind of used at the end of the Evoker segment. You can kind of see the familiars starting to come together. The idea is you ground target the skill, then the familiars will all kind of do their attack around that area. Obviously, there were no enemies there, so Fox and Hare didn't show themselves, but let's use it on some actual enemies. Toad will come in first, set up with that earthen cage, then the otter's going to toss that water ball on top, get that stun.
Dude, that's terrifying. What the fuck? The amount of CC that's going to do is going to be insane. I don't even want to think what that's going to look like for PvE. If you hit someone with that in PvE, PvP, that's going to hurt a lot. Because it's a knockdown. Then you CC them with Otter too, right? Oof, that's a lot of stuff. Harbinger? I was away seeing family the weekend that the Ritualist and the Antiquary were actually released. I saw the preview for them, but I haven't actually watched the live stream for it. I'm planning to do it after this one. Well, I'll look at the Antiquary and the other one. So I'll do that after this, but I might do like some fractals and some other stuff first before I have a look at that.
Fox and Hare will come in, and they're set up to hit all their damage, so that's what they're going to do. Obviously, you get the healing from this, you get the protection from this potentially, you get all the things from this. It's an elite skill, it does it all. And it's a really powerful effect where it also gives you access to kind of all of these familiars that you wouldn't otherwise have access to.
I think this is really cool, but I'm trying to think, what would you run instead as an Ellie? You could ditch FGS. You're not really using FGS because, I mean, you could probably summon it in fractals, take it in with you for the opener, and then run this. Throughout the beta, and Earth needs better and more diverse defensiveness. I think some skills could use utility. Yeah, I think the Otter needs change. The Otter utility skill. I think having boon conversion, like Connie conversions, is really cool and unique, very strong. Especially when there's places that like, oh, you get inflicted with fear, blindness, you know, like having a way to just like, oh, boom, like making resistance, you know, like, oh, you got slowed, boom, you've got quickness, you know, or oh, you got chilled, boom, you have alacrity. Like, I think it's really nice, snappy thing where it's like, oh, you can give like a little bit extra, you know. I think it would add like a nice little. The skill floor would still remain the same, but I think the skill ceiling and being able to utilize your game knowledge would be nice, at least for like the PvE and even the PvP side of things. Yeah, it would make it a bit harder to like balance, but like, dude, there's other classes that have boon conversions. Like they just slapped it on Engineer, and Engineer converts 3 damaging and non-damaging conditions. And what are the highest priority non-damaging conditions is chill and slow. Those both go into you know, into quickness and alacrity.
Very, I don't know what word I'm looking for. This gives you a lot of different types of value all at the same time.
Sorry, I probably didn't explain that well enough, but like, yeah, every condition has like an opposite counterpart, and like that's why it's like it's nice to have some kind of like thing instead of just like, oh yeah, you give regeneration and you cleanse 5 more conduits because you're running the water trade line. It's like, okay, that's kind of cool, but like I think it would be nicer if you made the Otter like a bit more of like a, oh, it converts these, but I think make it only I think it may only make it convert the conditions if it's I think only make it convert the conditions if you've got Otter as a as your like familiar. Because otherwise, like, this is going to be insanely powerful on, like, stuff that's, like their damage, right? Like, this could be, like, an insane utility. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. I need to actually put more up. I have been kind of a bit lazy on this holiday I've had lately.
On your allies, giving that healing from the water ball, giving that protection from the Earth Toad, but maximum value is going to be somewhere where there are enemies and allies at the same spot. So again, these are just using all those powered skills. We have Conflagration, we have Seismic Impact, we have Buoyant Deluge, and Lightning Blitz are all going to be triggered here as we get trolled by skill retargeting. But here we go, using it at the proper location. We see all the familiars coming in and doing their thing.
Wait,
but here we
that's
go.
interesting.
Triggered here as we get trolled by skill retargeting. But here we
Okay, so he casts it. So you get Toad Slammed. Then by the time you wake up from the Toad Slam, you get hit with the bubble. So that's like you get double the CC. Ooh. I think having one source of stab on Otter heal would be nice. I think they put the stability on the Toad. I think put the stability on the Toad instead of break stun and you're good.
Doing their thing.
It makes more sense on the Toad.
We're going to talk about the traits.
Minivy's 30.
Definitely the Toad. You know, really looking to do an Earth Evoker, put my hammer on, swing around, very dirt, mud focused. Definitely the best one by far.
Yeah, I see how it is. All right, let's put on some random traits.
Can't apply alacrity with Toad specialization. Matching weapon skills charged to familiars equal to 3. Okay.
This one, see all the basic skills, see all the empowered skills, all that good stuff. But let's talk about traits that actually do something.
Improve a boon based on your familiar. So if you have Might well attuned to the Fox, you gain 10 additional condition damage. Regeneration, 20% increased healing. Now, my question with the regeneration, does this increased healing apply to your allies as well? So like if, say, for example, you apply regeneration, is it 20% improved like as if you were running Relic of Dwayne? Because if so, that's kind of interesting. You could probably potentially run Relic of Dwayne and have like doubly improved regeneration, which would be kind of insane. Fury having 15% critical chance in addition. Oh my god, that's insane for power builds. That means, dude, that's so much precision you don't have to run. Because what? That's 25% baseline. And then you add an additional 15. So that's what? You got 30, 40 crit chance? Dude, that's insane. Like, because effectively I'm pretty sure precision isn't like boon duration. Like precision, I think requires 23 stats to give 1%. Let's do... Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 23 or like it's a weird number. It's not 15 like everything else in the game. I think it should be 21. No, I was close. 21. But still, the fact that like... Is it 21? Is it required precision to increase crit chance? But yeah, 21. Okay, I am correct. I'll look at them spread out afterwards, but so effectively gaining 15% crit chance, right? Like if I was to open a calculator, right? Sorry, I don't know that. So that's the effectiveness of like 315 stat points. That can all be put into like power or ferocity, which is insane. That's so good. I'm actually that's kind of scary as well, but especially because on top of that, you also have a crit modifier. But we'll have to see how the math on that works out. Like once people have been messing around with the builds, I think it most likely will get tuned down a bit. What else do we have? Okay, so also you get like an additional 250 condition damage just from might alone when you're running the Fox, which is kind of strong. The protection reducing condition damage is kind of meh. It's like, because the thing is like actually, is condition damage reduction additive or multiplicative, or like how is that calculated? Is it done the same way as damage reduction? I hope it is.
So here's kind of the first of a handful of traits that care which element you are specialized in. This is enhanced potency. It's going to improve a boon based off that choice. Yeah. So we see might giving you additional condition damage per stack. Regeneration going to have that increased healing. That is notably regeneration will heal for more, not an outgoing healing bonus. Hair is going to give you that super fury, increased critical chance while you have fury, and the earth toad will cause your protection to do reduced condition damage as well as strike damage. So again, it's kind of like a stat stick trait that just leans into defining which of these playstyles that you selected based off your element: condy damage, healing, strike damage, defense.
Yeah.
Next up, we have familiars.
Gain a temporary bonus after using a familiar skill. Wow. 5 seconds of improved condition damage by 25%. Holy. Yeah, this is insanely strong. I think this one's probably going to be tuned, like almost definitely getting tuned. What else we got? 30% increase healing to others. That's nice. Familiar's prowess plus 15% damage, plus 25% damage. I'm assuming that's strike damage not just damage altogether. And then Toad's prowess is reduce incoming condition damage and incoming strike damage. The thing is, the Toad one, I don't think is ever going to be that good, because the way damage reduction in Guild Wars 2 is currently like calculated is it's not additive. So say for example, you have protection itself is a 33% damage reduction, right? And then you have say 10% damage reduction food on top of that. So what happens is the game will take the 30%, right? And it will be like, oh, you're going to take 70% damage. And then they're going to take that 70% damage that you're going to take. And they're going to say, okay, 10% of that 70% is removed based on, you know, the 10% damage reduction that you got for food. So instead of like reducing another 10% damage, it's actually reducing 7% damage. So overall, you would take 40% less damage, not 43%, right? I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's like the easiest way I can explain it. It doesn't add the effects together. It takes them and it's like, it applies one, and then from the damage that you would take, it applies the other as if that new percentage is the whole. I'm assuming condition damage functions the same way, but I have not confirmed that. And I wouldn't just go out on a limb and say that condition damage functions the exact same way. That would take some testing to figure out. Someone might be able to say, like, someone's got something that knows different, and want to link it to me, I'll have a look. But to my understanding, like, this is nice, but like already that incoming strike damage is going to be, so you see, it's like, I'll actually use this as an example, right? So you're going to have protection, right? Which is like, oh, I don't have a calculator up. Yeah. No matter what you do. Yeah. No. So damage reduction is now, it's like it's multiplicative, but not in like the good multiplicative, right? So like, I'll use an example. Say for example, this is 100% of the damage you're going to take. Okay. So protection is 33%. So we're going to, sorry, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to explain this. So you got 100 and you minus it by 30. So you're going to take 70% damage, right? Now, this here is 15%. So you're going to take that 70, you're going to divide it by what? Why am I doing this? I don't know why I'm dividing. I should just be multiplying it. Yeah, never mind. So regardless, it's going to be like 70 multiplied by what? Like 0.15, which is 15%, which is like 10.5. So this 15% damage reduction, if you have protection on, is effectively an additional 10% damage reduction. Right? That's just the way that it functions with the current like programming of it, right? But it's still good. Like 10% damage reduction still
prowess. That's
pretty strong.
From the top GM affecting this. We did see this activating or triggering every time that we used a familiar skill. This is just going to be, again, kind of more that bread and butter, build defining bonus effect. We see every time we use a familiar skill, whether it is that basic skill or the empowered skill, we will get a buff on our bar for a bit of time, increased condition damage, increased outgoing healing, increased strike damage.
So I think like if they want to reduce the damage taken, I think maybe adding more barrier into Toad would be a nice addition. And then maybe making it where like, I don't think they've ever done this before, but having something maybe where it's like increase the barrier applied or something, I think would be an interesting mechanic. But rather than just, because damage reduction feels kind of boring, right? Like it kind of works in the background. You don't get to see it. You know, barrier, you get to see the effectiveness of.
Damage, again, based off your familiar. We're going to move into the adept traits. So this.
After they nerfed barrier stuff? Why not? They've got a counterplay to it. Dash your location while evading attacks. Your next few attacks create an arc of chain lightning. If your attack is specialized element, this breaks done. After using a familiar skill, your next strike creates an arc of chain lightning. Gain additional chains of chain lightning if you have the hair. Wait, what? Okay, that just empowers the meditation, I guess. Oh no, it just adds the chain lightning after using a familial skill. Sorry.
Your focus trait, there's going to be 4 of these, 1 for each element. What a surprise! Where each of these care about your specialized element, in that they will be a bit more powerful if you have the matching familiar. So here we see that every time you use a familiar skill, we're going to be getting stacks of that chain lightning buff.
And fury.
That we saw on the utility skill as well. So that's going to be a single stack, also going to have some fury in there. But if you have the hair, you're going to get 2 stacks of this buff. So basically double effectiveness of this chain lightning buff. Can move into the bottom trait, which is going to be more of that earth focus trait, earth and fortification. Gain protection when you disable an enemy, and again, basically double effectiveness here if you are channeling or if you are evoking.
Let's see. Gain protection when you disable an enemy. Protection duration is increased if you have the toad. Okay, so this is actually a nice thing that they've done, is they've increased the base duration rather than just giving you additional boon duration specifically for protection. There's certain things that are kind of annoying with this. Thinking of one that comes to mind is Necromancer. Necromancer has a trait inside of, is it? One of the traits increases fear duration. I'm pretty sure it's in Death Magic. Sorry, I just want to get this up. Wiki, Death Magic. No, it's not Death Magic. It's Soul Reaping, isn't it? Yeah. It's Soul Reaping. This one here. Fear of Death. Your fear has increased durations. Inflicting fear generates life force. So this trait, you read it, it looks pretty good on like a build, but it's actually not. Because the game where it currently functions is that conditions can only be increased by 100%. So this fear duration, any additional expertise you have does nothing to fear, because your fear already is as long as it can be if you take this trait. It's a bit sad, but you know, I think it would be better if this here increased the base duration of fears on Necromancer so that you could still experience the benefits of expertise, but it's like the only place you would really use this is on like heal Necromancer, right?
The toad. And then in the center, so we'll see the fire and water traits in the.
But yeah, that's why I think making the baseline duration higher rather that is better than them just adding like, hey, the increase just like 100% increase to that one boon.
Master tier. Then in the center, we're going to see kind of a hybrid trait that is valuable.
Okay, and then they've got Blazing Restoration, burn nearby enemies, and grant regeneration to nearby allies when you have a healing skill. When you use a healing skill. Because everyone's gonna have a healing skill. Okay, so you get like a little bit of burn and healing. This isn't that good. You kind of. Does Ellie even want to use its healing skill? I think the only healing skill I can think of you using is the arcane one, because it's like a blast, in which case you could apply a blast finisher. Say for example you want to utilize Bloodstone Relic, you might use this. Steam Shrieker Relic, you might want to use this. I could definitely see usage in that way. Maybe you're running like a Steam Shrieker condition burn build, which would be very interesting. I could definitely see that being used, especially since you have access to fire pretty much all the time. I just don't think you have access to water enough to make Steam Shrieker worth it unless you have another way of applying water fields, which I don't believe you functionally do aside from attuning to water. And I think the only one I can think of is Warhorn, but like, yeah.
Able to both the other 2 elements. So here we see Blazing Restoration when you use a healing skill, you know, that lower cooldown Evoker healing skill. We're going to do a bit of regen AoE and a bit of burning AoE. This will be important for either of those 2 traits that we will see basically right now. Starting with Fiery Might, there's going to be increased burn damage, so again, leaning into that.
Burning you inflict deal increased damage. Gain might when you inflict burning. Might duration is increased if you have the Fox. Okay, so again, they're increasing the baseline increase, and then they're increasing the damage that burning does by 10%. So this is pretty good. My base thoughts on this is this looks like it's going to be very beneficial to have on both the power and the Conduit build, because there is a trait line in fire that makes your condition damage scale of power, and you're probably running like this kind of almost this kind of trait setup if you're running power damage, right? Where you want fire, air, air for like the ferocity and the crit damage, right? And I could definitely see this being like very, very strong as like a combination where you're like putting the fields down in fire, and then you're tuning into air, doing some burst in air, and then going back into fire to upkeep the fields, right? I think this could be very interesting. A bit scary to balance, to be honest, but it's all right. Gain might when you inflict burning. Huh.
Condition damage, a lot of burning going to be coming out from the fire specialized evokers. And then you're also going to gain might anytime that you inflict burning with a very short cooldown to make sure that it's not completely insane. But as we see here, that might duration is going to be basically doubled when you have the Fox, just giving more opportunity to stack up that might.
Very important note here that both this trait and the Familiar's Prowess bonus should work with Inferno, correct?
I believe that is correct.
Okay, so the familiar is technically your damage. It's not calculated as a separate entity's damage.
Check after this trade, but we'll make sure that it does.
The Familiar's Prowess bonus says plus 10% condition damage, but that is like damage from conditions. So even when you have Inferno, it is still a condition despite scaling with power. So you will have increased damage on it.
That is a good note. Because Inferno, we might see some Infernos with the Fox. Next up, we have the water trait, Soothing Evasion. This is again going to be more that healing focus trait. Grant regen to allies on dodge, and then when you grant allies regeneration, you're going to be healing them. We can see here that that healing is a bit more potent when you have.
Let's see. Yeah, this build gives too much regeneration. They need to give some variety of boons to the Otter just to make it like usable. Especially in PvE. PvP, maybe it could be like usable just with regen, but like actually, is poison the counterpart of regen? I'm pretty sure it is. Let me just double check that. I'm like fairly certain it is. Sorry, I want to double check on the wiki if it will respond to me. Yeah, we'll put it on the side. I don't have to wait. Growing regeneration to allies when you dodge. So basically, you're gonna like heal allies when you dodge, and then I'm pretty sure there's a trait line in water that cleanses whenever you gain grant regeneration. So this is basically gonna be like you heal them when you apply regeneration and you cleanse them. So I see what they're trying to do, where they're trying to like make it that you're like applying regen and heal, like similar to how you used to heal with auras. You're healing with regen, but I think it's nicer to have more like variety in the build. In the boon application, because that usually makes it a bit more well-rounded as instead of just this thing where it's like, oh, you deal really well with conditions. Because especially on the heal builds, if you want to like deal really well with conditions, you usually just run fire trait line, because it's like, I think it's like whenever you grow on auras, you cleanse conditions, right? Here we go. I've got it up. Okay. No, it actually, I can't see here where it's, sorry, I'm just quickly looking to see if there, what's the counterpart to this. But it doesn't show. It should be in the notes section. Yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah. Convert poison into reject. Yeah, it is the opposite. I am correct. I wasn't certain.
The Otter. Yet another trait that potentially heals on dodge roll because you will dodge, grant regeneration, then that regeneration will heal your allies. And then last up, the kind of hybrid air-earth trait in the center here, elemental balance. This is going to give you either increased outgoing strike damage or reduced
Gain increased strike damage and reduce incoming strike damage. When above the health threshold, outgoing strike damage is further increased. When below the health threshold, incoming strike damage is further reduced. So it's basically like having a skull up buff. Okay. But it's like a 5% difference. So that's pretty good. Ellies are still going to die though. It's not going to save Ellie players. Let's be real.
incoming strike damage depending on your health threshold. So when you are above that 50% threshold, taking the opportunity to go more aggressive, getting that increased damage, and as you're below that health threshold, it will instead be totally protecting you with that reduced incoming strike damage. Quick water break before we wrap things up with the last Familiar's Focus. So this is going to...
Alright. Familiar's prowess is improved. Heal yourself when you use a familiar skill. So was that not always the percentage? I thought it was always 25% condition damage, or was it 15?
Be, as we saw, this is really going to be enhancing that Familiar's Prowess bonus to even more powerful levels. It also has this personal heal attached, so it is more like this more selfish combination of like defense and offense trait. So every time that you use a familiar skill, you will get a bit of healing in addition to that empowered Familiar's Prowess.
Alright, so my first thoughts on this. You're never going to be running... I mean, you might run in PvP or World v World for the additional healing increase in auto. But like in PvE, you're pretty much never running this trait because as a healer, you need to apply alacrity or quickness.
So we see here Fox's prowess, familiar prowess, even more condition damage. I mean, it's just increases everything, except the toad again is going to give you kind of that hybrid condi damage reduction and strike damage reduction instead of going a bit too crazy with the strike damage reduction number. And then the rest are just pretty solid increases. This one's pretty straightforward. You know, if you do want that kind of lower impact, lower intensity style of build, you're probably going to want to play with Familiar's Prowess, as it is just leaning into the core mechanic of the elite specialization, using that familiar skill as often as you can. Next up, we have Familiar's Blessing. So this is going to be more of a supportive trait. We do see some boons here.
Okay. So there we go. That's what people were talking about. So basically they're making... Wow, so you could either apply alacrity or quickness. Draw boons to allies when you use a familiar skill. So alacrity is going to be the healing one. The counterpart to this is going to be Tempest. So is this going to be better than running Heal Tempest? Potentially, but also probably not. I would much prefer if they put it on the quickness, but it doesn't, like, thematically it doesn't fit, right? Like, it would be nice, right, if like these boons, right, were applied, like, because what I'm thinking in my mind, right, is like, it would be nice if you had this where you could apply a quickness or alacrity, but the problem with this is like, you can only really do the quickness on a power DPS build because it's tied to the hair. You couldn't do it on like a heal build, right? Because you give up on running auto, which is like the whole point of the healing, right? Now my question, yeah, does the elite count as a familiar skill? Because couldn't you give like 4 seconds of everything with that elite?
Is always going to remove conditions from nearby allies when you use a familiar skill, and then depending on your specialized element, we see a few different boons here. Might from the Fox, Earth, can give you protection, and then there is opportunity to apply either quickness or alacrity.
Okay. On a random side note, before I let him finish, one thing I think that would be really nice for them to do is to make just remove the might and remove the protection, and then slap the quickness on the toad and the alacrity on the fox. The reason I say this is because I think it would be nice if they had a way where it was like the toad was all about damage reduction and healing, right? Like we do it with barrier. and the other is more about active healing, right? I think it'd be nice to have like, you've got a damage version that's like power, you have one that's Conduit, that'd be nice, right? I think it would just be nice because, like, let's be honest, no one cares about might. No one is honestly going to be running Familiar's Blessing and running Fox. Like, why would you do that? It makes no sense. And no one's going to be running this trait and running Earth, at least in a PvE context. Yeah, I'm having a look at this. I could see the Otter potentially being viable, right, as like a healer lack. But the problem is that it competes with Tempest, and Tempest is actually a really good healer. But I think the thing that this has over Tempest is the access to water is always. I think also the other thing they're going to have to do with this is the boon application radius just needs to be made to 360. Every other boon application in the game is like 360. Very few things are less than 360. You like, I don't know why this is less than that. It's like the standard radius for like boon applications, specifically for quickness and alacrity. Just keep it in line with everything else. Make it do that. Remove the protection. No one cares about this toad giving protection. Work on giving the protection through other sources, I think would be better. Or giving barrier through other sources, I think would be better. I think barrier makes more sense from the toad. The reduced condition damage is cute, but like resolution exists. So why would you not just run resolution, like grant resolution instead? I don't know. Personally, I just think it would be better if they gave it barrier, because it's a counterpart to healing. And then instead you focus on like the otter and the toad are more, the otter is more healing focused. The toad is more barrier focused. The hare is more power damage focused, and the fox is more condition damage focused. I think it makes very clean sense. Then that way that the toad and the otter are like opposite counterparts to each other. Where it's like, okay, you can be a healer, but you either like provide barrier or you provide healing, right? And then just slap, I don't know, the quickness on the toad would be nice, but we'll see.
So you have the hare or the otter equipped, so we will likely see, you know, that strike, that power, quickness, DPS with the air hare, and more of a heal alacrity build coming out from the water otter. This can just be a powerful defensive tool in competitive modes as well, or a powerful support tool, giving that Conduit lens every time they use a familiar skill, or, you know, getting some of these defensive boons, or even quickness can be a pretty powerful damage spike. And there's one final trait to talk about. It might be the craziest trait of all of them.
I think so. I think out of all the things we've shown, it is the most interesting, most ambitious.
Across all of these elite specs, maybe across all existing elite specs, could it be the craziest trait? I want to say yes, and let's just see what it does as I equip the trait and take a drink of water.
No, it just it makes it all fire attunement. Yes. Yes. Burn, baby, burn.
So we see here that I am specialized in fire, as I have the Firefox, and the first thing this trait did, called Specialized Element.
You cannot leave your selected attunement. Your familiar's basic attack charges more quickly. Activate your familiar's empowered skill, recharges your weapon skills, and triggers traits as if you were entering the attunement. Oh my god, that is terrifying. Bro, what the fuck? Bro, this is gonna be a baby piano class, dude. Everyone's just gonna be playing Fire Wizard, and they're just gonna be spamming their 2, their 3, their 4, their 5, just off cooldown. Bloodstone Burst, baby. Sunspot enabled.
It said, hey, why are you in Fire Attunement? You should probably be in Fire Attunement. The way this trait works is you cannot leave your selected attunement, but there is some bonuses. There's reasons to do this. Are they good enough? We kind of hope so. You know, we do want to have this kind of single element playstyle enabled by this Grandmaster trait. That's a little bit crazy. We didn't want it to be like something that you had to do playing with this specialization, but if you want to opt into this as the Grandmaster trait slot, you know, you can just be locked into Fire Attunement.
Dude, this was them literally reading all the Reddit comments like, I want to be a Fire Wizard, I want to be a Water Wizard, and they're like, listen, buddy, we got you. You want that? We'll just give that to you.
All of my attunements have become Fire Attunement. I can't switch out. That's not the worst thing in the world because we see here that the familiar basic skill is going to charge more quickly now. It's only going to take 2 of these skills. I can fire off a couple skills. That's going to give me access to Ignite, and I can fire off a couple more skills, get access to Ignite again, flip over to Conflagration, and when I activate Conflagration, use it at a pretty bad time, but this is going to give you a flat cooldown reduction to all of your equipment.
Okay, so it's only your familiar's empowered skill that recharges your weapon skills. So not every time you use the F5. I don't know if that's going to be worth it, but
weapon skills. So we see here, let's fire off some skills. Do this again, charging up for that Conflagration. Then we're going to hopefully set up a reasonable period of time where we can utilize this. We have all our skills on cooldown. Now we use Conflagration. Those are all reset. Now I can start counting again toward my next Conflagration, toward my next Ignites. And this is like a pretty powerful loop. It's not really going to be like an infinite loop, obviously, but it is going to just lean into that single attunement playstyle where...
Yeah, but it's currently not an infinite loop, but we're going to figure out a way to make it an infinite loop.
You're just charging up the familiar skill.
We know how this functions.
Every time you use that, and this is gonna add, this is a pretty interesting trait. I don't want to call it a flexible trait because it's kind of the opposite of flexible, but there's a lot of different ideas that you can play around with here. So you can play like Scepter with Firefox, or you can play Staff with the Water Otter. I switched to the Otter, and it says, hey, now you have to be in Water attunement. You're not allowed to be in another attunement. Air Hair, this is gonna be that air specialized strike damage. A lot of lightning strikes, a lot of blinding flashes, maybe more gales coming to the table. Could play with Scepter, could play with Dagger, you could play with, finding the right combination of specialized element and weapon combination. There's a lot of opportunity to play around with this, and I think we've been having a lot of fun. You can probably hear it even in my voice as I talk about this. We've been having a lot of fun with this trait internally, and this is something that we want it to be good, and it might not quite be good enough yet, so play with it during the beta, let us know. We're going to be playing with it a lot during the beta as well and iterating on this trait, but we do really like the idea of promoting this like single element playstyle in kind of an opt-in situation. It makes a lot of sense for this specialization because you are already specializing in an element. So if you really want to lean into fire, you can now do that in the most extreme way possible by playing with specialized elements. Notably, one thing I did forget to mention, because I'm just rambling on and on about just too much excitement. But when you activate that empowered skill, it is going to get you that cooldown reduction on your skills, but it's also going to trigger all the traits as if you enter that element. So that will be triggering your Sunspot here. That will be triggering, Elemental Attunement if you have it, Healing Ripple if you're in water and specialized in water. So you don't completely lose access to
Arcane Echo Staff Wizard. Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they come up with, but like I could definitely see us be like making like something that's like Bloodstone Burst, like just making like a Bloodstone Burst that we just run on repeat. I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't think this trait's going to be worthwhile. I think the top trait's probably going to be better for DPS because you're probably going to want to be like attuning into Earth to get additional. Yeah. You just proc the Bloodstone Burst in Fire Camp anyway? Not really, because you've got 2 blast finishes in Earth that you're just not using, right? And now with the 1 second cooldown on Fire, if you go into Earth, use the 4/5, you go back into Fire, you don't have like any dead time inside Earth where you used to. No, you proc all the time in Fire Camp with Focus 4. Yeah, but you get additional stats here, right? Like you get additional stats from this here. Like the bonus from like your F5 is like higher with the top attunement. You could be right. It might be that your weapon cooldowns is worth it, but I just don't see it being worth it, the raw percentage.
Those traits, you just get them whenever you fire off that familiar's empowered skill. So, Taylor mentioned he's probably going to be playing around with the Earth Toad specialized elements, maybe as a hammer, but see what happens.
Dagger Earth is right now the best, Earth specialized elements I can get, but, I need the throughput. I need as many Toad skills as possible, and this is what that trait enables.
Yeah, so that's all we got, I think. There's nothing else to talk about. We ended things on a crazy note. Let's just reiterate, it's a beta event. There's some crazy stuff. This is obviously a crazy trait. We've seen some other crazy traits. We've seen some other crazy profession mechanics, crazy skills all across everywhere, but they're all really interesting. They're all really fun. So play with them during the beta. Let us know what's working, what's not working. Where does these things need to be stronger, weaker, so on and so forth. I've said it so many times that it might just not mean anything to you guys anymore, but it is really important that there is a reason that we're running the beta event, and it is because we want to make these specializations the best versions of themselves before the expansion even launches. So you're getting that initial taste of not quite perfect, not quite final, but it's just going to give us so much more information, so much more data, so much more feedback around these specs that they're going to be so much better going into launch than if we just didn't run the beta event.
Yep, the beta is August 20th. That's 12 days away, less than 2 weeks. So get excited. And a note on that, just a small thing, is that normally the PvP monthly automated tournament would fall under that beta window, but we really want you guys to focus on these beta elite specs. Don't have to worry about that. So we're pushing the monthly automated tournament back a week. There will be a post in the forums about that. Just an FYI, right now we have the push beta going on. You can queue up in ranked, try out new push changes.
All right. They're just going to talk about other news stuff. So I'm probably just going to go through my closing thoughts. Dude, actually, the Conduit, Amalgam, and Invoker are actually definitely the three best for Lost. I think I have not yet looked at the Paragon, Ritualist, or the, what's it called? The Reliquary, just because I was away when they did the live stream for that. I'm going to look at that a bit later on. But like none of them really grabbed me. The Ritualist wasn't really like, didn't really look that cool to me. The Paragon was like, okay, cool. It's kind of neat. Looks kind of neat. Didn't really interest me that much. But I definitely think the one I'm looking forward to the most is trying out the Conduit for Revenant. Just because, you know, I'm a Renegade main, guys. Come on. Okay. Of course, I'm gonna look forward to the Renegade one. Okay. So I'm gonna try it out. See if I can make a nice Condy build work. See if I can make a nice power build work. It'll be kind of interesting. And then definitely the other one I'm looking at is the Amalgam. Dude, the burst damage that you can potentially put out in a group with Amalgam. Dude, maybe try some no-heal fractals with Amalgam because you got like, you make your group just heal based on the damage they deal. Insane damage. Okay, and then we've got this Elementalist spec, okay, the fucking Evoker. It looks insane, right? There's potentially a lot of broken stuff with it. But I'm excited to kind of like try it out, play with it. I don't know what I'll spend most of my time on. I think the only other one I might make would potentially be the Mesmer, the Troubadour. I might make a Troubadour and play around with that for a bit on the main. But for the most part, I'm mainly excited for these three. I definitely think they're like leagues above the other ones in terms of their just their overall kits and like how strong they look, like their unique buffs, what could you potentially trigger with them. I think they were definitely a lot more liberal with their choices on these ones in terms of the creative inspiration they had for them and how they like interacted, where they gave them a lot of unique buffs. I think a lot of them are probably going to get tuned down, but I think they're going to be a hell of a lot of fun to play with. Especially with like Bloodstone relics. If they add any new relics in the expansion that could potentially synergize with stuff, would be a lot of fun. But overall, yeah, I think that was really good. I really like what they are doing with it. I think the only thing I can really critique them for is like the Toad feels a bit like meh. Just because it's like, I think giving more barrier and stability access would be nice on the Toad. But and then maybe just making like a heal quickness counterpart, maybe utilizing the Toad, because I don't really see people running the Toad trait where it's like, oh, you apply protection every time you use the Toad skill. It's like kind of like meh, like, you know what I mean? Like you could pretty much give permanent protection just by running the arcane trait line and going into Earth and using Warhorn. Like you don't need to like every time you use your F5 skill, you give protection. Like it's kind of like meh. Like protection isn't that valuable in PvE. It's more valuable to give it like alacrity or quickness, especially if you're giving away a lot of the other stuff that's in the top trait. But that's just my personal opinion on it. I could be proven wrong in the beta. I am really looking forward to it. So I will probably see you guys there, and like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys.